heavy early voting in Lancaster.
Okay.
So of the 25,000 people in Erie County who did early voting, perhaps many of them came out of the eastern suburbs.
Carl, what's your secondary race, if you will, that you're keeping an eye on tonight?
Well, there's some interesting supervisor races going on in Grand Island. The town board race in Amherst is interesting. Republicans trying to get a seat or two back to have a place at the table there. But really, I think we should take a look at the vote turnout in the three first-ring suburbs, Tonawanda, Amherst, and Cheektowaga. Given that it looks like it's going to be a very low turnout in the city of Buffalo, that will be a concern to Democrats and Mark Poloncarz. What the vote turnout is and how it comes out in those three towns could be very interesting in the final result on county executive.
Carl Calabrese with the master of the transition, because we had this tweet 4 hours ago, a little more than 4 hours ago, closer to 5. This came from the Erie County Democratic Committee's Twitter account. Voter alert, turnout in Erie County is dangerously low. Bad candidates win when Democrats stay home. Now this was at 4 o'clock, 5 hours before polls close. But if you're pushing the panic button at 4 o'clock that you've got dangerously low turnout, Bruce, what's that telling you?
He thinks he doth protest too much, because I saw lines at my polling place. And, you know, there's no, I mean, look, my polling place had Darius Pridgeon for council, unopposed. April Baskin for legislature, unopposed.
Right.
Next door to us in Niagara, there's an interesting race with our old friend, Councilmember Rivera, up against this young whippersnapper who used to run a saloon, I'm told.
The only Republican running in the city of Buffalo. It's the only one.
Courageous man.
Yeah.
So you know, there's lots of action in the city, but you know, I'm telling you, there were lines at the polling place. There weren't lines at this polling place in 2016.
Are you seeing this differently, Carl? Because if you're sending an alert, pushing at least on a social media platform that this is panic, and you know they had a couple of flashing siren lights on the tweet as well. I don't know if they're just looking for a cushion here, but that to me says, well, maybe things aren't going quite as well.
Well, I would say the comment that bad candidates win when Democrats stay home, I would vehemently disagree with. I think good candidates win when Democrats stay home, but that's another issue. No, you know, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, usually you don't have a great turnout.
Right.
And the job of a political leader, whether it be a district leader or as town chair, is to fire up the troops.
Create a sense of urgency.
Every election is the most important one in the history of the democracy, the history of the republic.
Of course,
and every election has the possibility of being a disaster because we didn't get our troops out. So that's just that goes with the territory. If you've been in politics for a while.
And everybody knows that the pattern around here is folks vote before they go to work, but most folks after they come home.
Sure.
So, you know, the polling stations are open until 9 p.m. because most folks get home sort of 4, 5, 6 o'clock, and they sort of settle in and they say, oh, well, it's time to go. And so the spike is just before.
And we were both district committee people for many years, and you'd go to your polling place at 4 or 5 o'clock, and you'd pick up the old NCR sheets, and you'd look, and it'd be hundreds of people who didn't vote, and you'd go home and you'd start making calls, and then as you went back at 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, that's when people start to come out, and you felt like you were doing some good with the phone calls, but in reality, as Bruce said, that's just the pattern people have in the way they vote every year.
And that's the job of a political committee. You know, that's the job of a local
Number
leader.
one job. If you don't get the vote out,
exactly,
your greatest candidate in the world is going to lose.
Exactly.
One of the things that's in play tonight is control of the Erie County Legislature, and Michael Wooten is in our newsroom tonight, having a look at those races and the key ones that may determine who has control. Right, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. And to Bruce's point. I'll move down here a little bit. There we go. To Bruce's point, if you want to leave his microphone open here, I think Bruce and I actually live close to each other in the city here. My polling place, 4 years ago, there were total 123 votes cast there. Again, 4 years ago was another low turnout election. I was the 77th vote at 11 o'clock this morning. So I don't know that you can say there was low turnout, certainly where I was voting in the city of Buffalo. We'll have to wait and see some of the numbers. But let's go through, control of the county legislature. It is up for grabs because All 11 seats are on the ballot today throughout Erie County. Here's the current breakdown. You have 7 Democrats and then 4 who caucus with the Republicans, and so Republicans would need to flip 2 of these seats to take control of the county legislature. There are really 4 that we're kind of watching closely, 3 of them currently held by Democrats, 1 of them held by a person who caucuses with the Republicans. Talk about that in a second. First up, the 5th district. You guys talked about this. Tom Logren not running for re-election. A couple of women vying to get his seat there. Anytime the incumbent is not running, that's a district that we'll want to pay close attention to. The other one where the incumbent's not running is, of course, with Lynn Dixon in the 9th. That's Hamburg, Lackawanna, South Buffalo. These 2 guys hoping to replace her there. And so both parties will try to hold on to these seats, but anytime the incumbent is not running, we've got to be taking a look at it. The other 2 seats that we're watching are kind of considered to be a little bit in play here. Both of them currently held by Democrats. Kevin Hardwick, who of course used to be a Republican and then switched parties, and John Brusso. So the 4th district is where Kevin Hardwick currently represents. This is City and Town of Tonawanda, and then Grand Island. There's his opponent, 23-year-old, by the way, running there. And then the 8th district, John Brusso facing a pretty tough challenge, we're told, from Frank Todaro. That's Cheektowaga, Lancaster, Alden. So when you step back and look at all of this, again, you currently have 7 Democratic county legislators, 4 on the Republican side. If Republicans can hold on to the 3 that don't seem to be very contested and hold on to Lynn Dixon's seat, they would still need to pick up 2 of the 3 here that we believe might be in play. Brusso's seat, Hardwick's seat, Logren's seat. Interesting to hear what you guys have to say as far as the chances that perhaps Republicans can do that.
Because of the one seat that I find most interesting is that 4th district race, where you had Kevin Hardwick, who flipped. He was the key vote for Mark Poloncarz budget this year. He was the key vote on the Erie County Water Authority, putting Jerome Shadd back on, giving him another term. I'll ask you, Carl, that's a traditionally Republican district, or at least it looks that way according to the last couple of elections. Is there peril attached to Hardwick's decision to flip parties?
You know, if there's peril in switching parties, it's usually in a primary. When you switch parties and somebody in the party that you just switched to says, wait a minute, you know, you're a Johnny-come-lately. I'm not going to, you know, I've been waiting for years to get in the county legislature, and now you're going to switch parties and take that seat. I'm going to challenge you in a primary. I would not have been surprised to see a serious primary challenge in the Democratic Party against Kevin Hardwick. It didn't happen, and so that bode well for him. You know, that district demographically has changed a lot in the last decade, and if I recall, it is now a Democrat district in terms of party enrollment. Kevin was able to hold on to it as a Republican because he had a long history in the city of Tonawanda as a member of the board, and then as a county legislator who did his constituency work and did all of those kinds of grassroots things that you need to do to solidify yourself as an incumbent with voters of both parties. So that when he made that switch from Republican to Democrat, that really changed the entire map for in Erie County for the Republicans. And then with Lynn Dixon getting out of the 9th district, which is outside the city of Buffalo, the most Democrat district in terms of enrollment in Erie County.
Which she reminds folks all the time about.
Some 16,000 more Democrats and Republicans in that district. This is a big hill for Republicans to climb now to get back to that county legislature.
And it's a young candidate there, Bruce. I mean, and typically they're not always successful first go out. My understanding, it's a first time out for Jacob McMahon. He's 23 years old. He's kind of Main Street for Republicans. He's a military vet, wounded during service. He's part of the McMahon family over in Grand Island, which has had political success there within the Republican ranks. So it sets up nicely for him. The only thing that you could maybe hold against him, and it may be unfair, is that he's just 23 years old here.
It's not about his age in years, it's his age in public awareness. You have to establish name recognition. It's a curious situation right now. There's a young Kennedy challenging a long-term incumbent in Massachusetts. You know, Ed Markey, nobody has a problem with Ed Markey in Massachusetts. Everybody knows who Kennedy is. Well, everybody may know who McMahon is, but they don't have a problem with Kevin Hardwick. He's been around. He's not only done his constituent service, but he's a calming influence, and that is part of the psychology that people are going to be going for today. Mark Poloncarz is a calming influence. He's no drama, oh, Markey. I mean, you know, with all the chaos and turmoil and difficulty facing us every day, it's really nice to come home to calm times, and that's what you got in and continuity in Tonawanda.
And we need to reset. I'm going to give you a shot right back at this, Carl, but we need to reset at the top of the hour. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. It is 9 o'clock here in Western New York in the Buffalo area. The polls have closed, but we're told by the Erie County Board of Elections that we should not expect results from them until at least 9:15. So if you're going to the web or going to your computer and looking for results, they may not be coming in quite yet. Another 15 minutes or so, we're told, before they start coming in. In terms of the marquee race, Carl, is Mark Poloncarz a calming sort of effect on voters? He seems to have extraordinary knowledge of county government. He seems to have more than a high level of competence in running government. He seems to know what it is that he is doing. You can quibble about the politics, but I don't think you can quibble about his understanding of how government works. Is that enough in a third election?
There's no question he knows his government, he knows his budget. That was obvious during the debates. He really has a grasp on that. That doesn't surprise anyone who knows him. His style of leadership is what is often referred to as a caretaker style versus a ceremonial leader who just is there to cut ribbons versus an entrepreneurial leader who likes innovation and is always, you know, pushing the envelope for new things. And I don't mean it in a negative sense. Caretaker meaning he's like a COO. He's like a chief operating officer. He takes care of the basic services that government is supposed to deliver, and he watches over those, and that's just his style. It's not necessarily exciting. It's not necessarily sexy, but it sticks to the basics. Eventually that could get old, and one of the things you need to beat an incumbent, and Bruce and I were talking about this earlier in relation to the 1999 race of Giambra versus Gorski. Now Gorski was going for his fourth term at the time, not his third, his fourth. But I said to Bruce, and he agreed, you could feel it, you could sense it in the air that people had said he reached his shelf life. And you really need that if you're going to beat an incumbent. You need that general feeling that time is over now. You've had
nobody's
your chance.
nobody's tired of Mark Poloncarz. I mean, really.
And one of the things that Mark could have been criticized for 3 or 4 years ago was his, if you will, prickliness. He had a tendency, especially on social media, if there was a story he didn't like, and we've done a few that he probably hasn't liked, you would hear about it and he would refute things, and sometimes there would be ongoing social media conversations between him and reporters about what it was that was reported versus what it was he thought the facts were.
But you know, he's so attentive to details. He knows the budget minutely. I hear from county workers, sort of supervisor level people, second and third level people. Oh, he was out at our barn. Oh, he was out looking at the park. He was asking us about this swing set. I mean, the guy is everywhere. He lives this job. And I think that folks pick up that when you ask him a question, it's kind of like asking my old boss Joe Biden a question about some foreign policy thing. He'll tell you the grandfather of the prime minister with whom he had donuts the other day. You know, there's so much detail, there's so much knowledge here that he probably is impatient, if I could say that. So, but I think he's gotten a little better in terms of being gentle and being calmer and more confident, because frankly, the Republicans did not put a really well-funded, well-organized campaign together to challenge him. Lynn Dixon is carrying the banner for the Republicans, but I don't get the sense, Carl, that the Republican Party invested in her in the way that the Republican Party and lots of donors and lots of activists got involved when the previous Republican incumbent, Chris Collins. Chris Collins was an all-hands-on-deck candidacy. I don't get the sense that that's what Mark Poloncarz is facing.
In terms of Mark Poloncarz, yeah, he can have an edge to him. And in talking to a lot of Democrats during this campaign cycle, one of their biggest concerns and fears is that running against a woman that he he might very well do or say the wrong thing and have what I refer to as a Rick Lazio moment.
Yeah.
Where, remember when he left his podium and lurked over Hillary and wouldn't back off and changed the whole complexion of the race. And a lot of Democrats were concerned about that, you know, in a debate situation, she might get under his skin enough that you could have that. And for the most part, he kept it well under control. But the only time I saw him lose his temper was with Dave McKinley. On one of your newscasts. I forget what the issue was. I think it was over the summer, but he pretty much got in Dave's face and challenged him about the report and said, "How, you know, you're much better than this to bring this up." And it was quite an interesting confrontation.
Yeah, but Dave is such a gentle guy.
Yeah, he never brings that out in anybody. But that was a concern of Democrat leaders, that edginess could come through, and against a woman it could draw blood.
I think it was like that old Sears ad campaign, the softer side of Sears. We were seeing the softer side of Mark Poloncarz through this particular campaign.
But Lynn Dixon did, in the debate, try to tag him with being a bully. Yeah. And I don't think that
we certainly didn't see that in the debate.
Well, the way he answered the question was, I was talking to my business partner, Vic Martucci, and we both agreed it was almost like he knew it was coming.
Yes.
He was prepared for it. There was no question in my mind that he had an inkling that charge was going to get thrown out, and when it came, he even had his mother sitting in the front row. I mean, it was.
But I mean, you know, Carl, oftentimes people have accused you of being intellectually overbearing, and I just think it's enthusiastic and intelligent and smart and quick-witted, right? And
That's how I describe it, but you know.
Exactly.
And I don't want to, you know.
That's what Poloncarz has got going for him. He's a very smart guy.
Understood. We've got reporters standing by. We need to start getting to them. 2 on your sides, Jackie Roberts and Claudine Ewing are with the Democrats, where Mark Poloncarz will be talking to voters a little bit later on tonight. Do us a favor and set the scene for us out there tonight. What's it look like, Jackie and Claudine?
We are at the Statler. This is serving as Democratic headquarters. I'm Claudine Ewing along with Jackie Roberts. Obviously, the big race here in Erie County is for Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz. He is seeking his 3rd term. And right now, because it's past already 9 o'clock, we notice that many people are already starting to come inside. But there are a lot of other races that people are watching, especially for the Erie County Legislature. And that's where Jackie Roberts will get the start.
Yeah, thanks, Claudine. It's interesting looking around here. Almost all the signs are for the Erie County Legislature. That's because there are 11 seats up for grabs this year, and one of those seats is Lynn Dixon. She represents District 9, which is Hamburg, Lackawanna, and South Buffalo. So that's just one of the many. We're seeing a lot of people out here tonight, and there's also some big races in the city. There's several seats on Buffalo Common Council and the comptroller position that is also up for grabs tonight. But like Claudine said, at 9 o'clock, we really started to see some people turn in. And just before this interview, we also spoke to the party chairman, Jeremy Zeller. He says they are feeling optimistic. But like we talked about earlier, there was a concern with voter turnout. The party put out a Facebook post and an email saying good candidates lose when Democrats stay home. And they also said that the turnout was dangerously low. So I guess we'll just have to see how things turn out as those numbers come in and as we learn more throughout the night. Claudine?
Yeah, and so that'll be interesting to watch what the turnout actually is. And we're told that about 9:15, they are expected to start putting some results up on the screen, which is right behind us. We'll send it back inside to you.
Claudine and Jackie, thank you. Erie County Democratic Elections Commissioner, Chief of the ECDC, Jeremy Zellner, also talked to reporters a few moments ago, including our very own Leanne Stuck. Let's listen in.
Jeremy, election night 2019, what's the optimism level like among the Democrats?
It's great. I mean, we're excited. We had a strong message, particularly with the county executives race. Our candidate, Mark Poloncarz, has a record of accomplishments and a record of fiscal responsibility that I think is resonating with the voters out there, and I think that's helping our ticket down ballot. Turnout, you know, anecdotally looks kind of a little sporadic throughout the day. It was kind of low during the morning and then picked up after the lunch hour a little bit, and then picked up a little bit after dinner. but obviously we won't know the results till after 9. But I'm feeling very optimistic about the county executive.
Yeah, you look back at 2011 when Mark ran this race, more than 230,000 people showed out. And then the 4 years after that, it was 150. I mean, is there a reason to believe that's going to be even lower this year?
Well, I'm thinking we're going to be in the high 30s, maybe right around 40% for tonight. That would be something that I would say, you can't say it's a high percentage, but it's we were projecting around 40% if we were going to be optimistic tonight.
Can you talk about the tweet from the Dems Twitter page that you would put out at about 4? It appeared there was genuine concern about the turnout.
Yeah, I would say that anytime you get the kind of turnout that our poll watchers were getting, we were concerned. We've got to make sure everybody gets out and vote. But, people came out in the dinner hour and people got out and exercised their right to vote. So it's our job as a party to get our voters out to vote. And so however that is going to be, we've got to make it happen.
At this point, do you have any idea of how the numbers are looking this year compared to years past?
No, I would say I think the 4 years ago cycle was really, really low. I think we'll be higher than that as far as turnout goes. We're going to be getting the early voting results up. If you've gone to the website, you see that we'll be able to show you the early voting and the election night results, and then the math that you'll be able to see. You'll be able to combine all of them. So, but we're excited about tonight. It's going to be a great night.
So it does appear there was actually, at least momentarily, perhaps it's passed, some concern by Zellner and the rest of the folks in the Democratic Party about whether or not they were going to get the vote out to 40%, which he set as his comfort level. Is that realistic off your election?
It's a serious concern. I mean, the way that these party chairmen operate sometimes makes me wonder, why they're allowed to get away with this. The Democrats this year wanted to have turnout for their incumbent county executive.
Sure.
So what did they agree to? A whole bunch of non-compete clauses within their major turnout area called the City of Buffalo. I mean, holy cow, whose idea was that? You got to have turnout. You have to have race. You have to have activity up and down the ticket. So we know that the strong rural areas always participate in a greater level. The good thing for Democrats, of course, is that though the Republican enrollment is high there aren't many folks there. Okay, so it really, as we were just discussing, it comes down to the Golden Triangle. It's Tonawanda, Amherst, Cheektowaga, West Seneca, the collar area around the city. That's where the turnout is. But even there, it's not very high. So it's unfortunate. It should be higher every place.
But where it is high, okay, and Keith McShay from the Buffalo News did, I thought, a really smart thing today.
Yeah.
He visited precincts in Orchard Park. He visited precincts in West Seneca, Cheektowaga, and Lancaster, where Mark Poloncarz won big 4 years ago, but also Donald Trump won big in the last presidential election. And turnout was really high. So, Carl, which of these two possibilities are we looking at? That people really like Mark Poloncarz and turning out for him because they want him to have a third term and they know he's got a race on his hands? Or is it, well, I'm kind of tired, maybe Mark Poloncarz needs to, step down? Or is it a mix of both of those things?
Here's the numbers. We just looked at some numbers. 20% turnout in the city of Buffalo. If you're the Democrat chairman, that's got to be very, very concerning. 50% turnout in rural Erie County, and as Bruce said, that's probably good for Lynn Dixon in terms of just percentage, but not a lot of people there.
Right.
In the key suburbs, now you're getting 45% turnout. If a Republican is going to win this county, they've always done well in that triangle of three towns, Cheektowaga, Lancaster, West Seneca. Enrolled Democrats, but a long history of ticket splitting and voting for Republicans at all levels of government, from president to U.S. senators to Congress to county executives.
These are the Reagan Democrats.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
1980.
if she was able to mount a campaign in those three towns, effectively under the radar screen, door to door, in the mailbox, her campaign could be optimistic right now if the vote turnout is coming out in those three towns that to counteract and to play off of this very low turnout in the city of Buffalo.
But in those three towns, Carl, what is the leading ethnic identity in those towns?
Polish.
Right.
But
not that matters anymore, but there's a certain...
And 50% of the population is women. So that's
you parse these numbers, and it comes down to this. Look, there's some areas of our county where there's more elderly people, where the household income is a little bit higher. Those are the behavioral voters. Right. Okay, they are the behavioral voters. Some people say, well, they're the behavioral Republicans. Well, except that they always vote for the calm, technocratic Democrat. They used to vote for Obama. A lot of them voted for Trump this past time around. So you characterize that. I've been doing this for a long time.
And this is my new neighborhood because I live in Cheektowaga, which is close to Depew.
Yeah.
I am close to West Seneca, and I'm seeing all of the things that you're talking about, including at the polls today. Now, as for the Republican Party, we were talking about that. Many will be gathering at the downtown Avant Hotel, and our Kelly Dudzik is there. So, Kelly, how is it going over there? What's the temperature over there? Are we getting any sense of any sort of optimism tonight?
Right now, Steve, there are still more journalists here than there are supporters of the GOP. People are starting to get here. I'd imagine it'll get a lot busier within the next hour, but I'm going to step out of the way so that our chief photographer, Andy DeSantis, can show you it's a big ballroom with a podium and just a few people here getting some snacks, and there you can see the music's being pumped in. But Lynn Dixon is trying to unseat Mark Poloncarz, as you've been talking about. She's a member of the Independence Party, but in this election she's also running on the Republican Party line as she tries to unseat Mark Poloncarz. She's made a big deal about county roads and county taxes in this election. So, Steve, I wish I had more to tell you right now, but hopefully within the next hour we'll have some more info for you.
Kelly, thank you so very much. And by the way, Andy DeSantis, we were all reminded today, okay? He has been here working elections since 1979.
Wow.
And he is still out there tonight. So, Chief, 2 thumbs up from everybody in the newsroom tonight.
It's
amazing.
It's my old friend Mark Wozniak's anniversary, too. He's been doing it at WBFO since 1970.
Outstanding. Yeah. But getting back to the county executives race, to me, there was a stark difference between the candidates, obviously, male, female, Republican or Republican-supported and Democrat. You had Lynn, who worked on my side of the fence. She was in the broadcast industry.
And is known to the media market.
I think her name ID is pretty high.
Yeah.
And the retail politics, when we're talking about retail, we're talking about one-on-one kind of politics. She's completely at ease with it. Mark Poloncarz knows everything you needed to know about county government, and probably more than you need to know about county government, if I'm to be frank. He knows it really, really well. Has been very consistent with how it is that he's operated. He's been very clear about what he's about. But in terms of retail politicking, it's not his forte. He's not strong at it. He's not comfortable at it. Even his friends will say he's uncomfortable doing it, but makes himself go ahead and do this. Do these dynamics play out in an election over the course of, the 7, 8, 9 months that we've been talking about?
Ordinarily, you might see that kind of thing, those perceptions being relevant. But Mark Poloncarz has really learned how to communicate in a very non-confrontational, easy way. I'm told that he just shows up some places and just sort of chats with folks. You see him in the parks. You see him in Taste of Buffalo, just walking around. No entourage, no bunch of guys, no Victor, no driver. On balance, if there's no problem, if things are functioning okay, there's been no big scandals, there's no tax crises or budget troubles, no matter who the incumbent is, it's very difficult to mount a candidacy against them unless there's a hook.
Let me pick up on that, because I've given that a lot of thought, and over the years observed that if you're going to beat an incumbent, and it's difficult, you need 3 or 4 things to go your way. Bruce just mentioned 2. You need some type of fiscal crisis, fiscal meltdown. A problem that results in a big tax increase, or you need a big scandal, okay? The third thing you need, we mentioned earlier, is you need that sense that you've reached your shelf life. It's time for a change. The fourth thing is something that you, as a challenger, have control over, and that is defining the issues. if you're going to run on the incumbents' issues of I've run a good government, scandal-free, I've controlled the budget, you're probably 99 out of 100 times you're going to lose that race. What we experienced in 1999, because in many ways Dennis Gorski and Mark Poloncarz were very similar. They're not backslapping, type of politicians that wade into a crowd and seem to enjoy it. Neither one. That's just not their style. And Gorski was running as an effective day-to-day manager.
Good government managers.
And what the Jommer campaign, which Bruce and I served as strategists on, was able to do was to change the issue and to say, no, we're not going to talk about day-to-day county government. We're going to talk about the future. How do we govern ourselves as a community going forward? And the answer in the Jommer campaign was regionalism. Let's have more service sharing, collaboration, cooperation, and let's change the way we govern ourselves. Let's bring the cost of government down and make ourselves more competitive. Now that was ground Dennis Gorski was not comfortable fighting on and was not very good at fighting on, and that changed the race. If Lynn Dixon, if she had developed that issue, and I believe there was an issue out there that could have been developed that way, had she done that, that may have started to look like the 1999 Giamber-Gorski.
What we tried to do in that race, what I in particular insisted that we address, is some of the fundamental economic and demographic dynamics, by which I mean our kids are leaving town to get jobs elsewhere. What are we doing to keep our kids? And you know what? Lynn Dixon and the Republican strategists absolutely left the shape of the economy, the shape of where we're going. Why is it that we have a Buffalo Renaissance and yet the population of the city of Buffalo has dropped 40,000 people in the past decade?
And if it wasn't for refugee population moving in, it would be
Let me
more
tell you
than
the
that.
issue that might have been that hook. About a year and a half ago, the commercial real estate developers did a research project. And they said, okay, we're having 2 or 3% growth in Buffalo. And we think that's great because we've had negative growth for so many years. But they went out into the Midwest and Northeast and they looked at cities like Buffalo in terms of size, demographics, and snowfall, and found that they were experiencing 10, 11, 12% growth. And the reason is their economic development policy is totally different than the one we have here in Erie County. They are attracting young millennials, and they're doing it by incentivizing housing for young millennials on the basis that where the talent is, businesses go. And secondly, the hottest commodity in commercial real estate today is industrial space. We have 0% vacancy in industrial space in Western New York. The old philosophy of shovel-ready is obsolete. Companies don't want to wait 18 months to build something on a shovel-ready site. They want to occupy a site in 60 to 90 days, which means you build on spec. You build on speculation on the basis that if you
this sounds wonky, but you can make a campaign of this.
You can.
Okay?
Oh, absolutely. So that information was all out there, okay? And I often said, boy, if the campaign picked up on that and developed that and made the election about the future and our economic development policy and compared and contrasted that set of principles versus what we have in Erie County, it could have been the regionalism.
And there wasn't a lot of
issue.
and there wasn't a lot of discussion about economic development in this. A lot about county roads, but not a lot about economic
No, there wasn't. And that would have made it about the future.
And you know who cares about county roads? People in the rural areas where
Burbs too.
where they don't pay for their roads.
All right, I mean, we need to jump away here just for a second. Let's talk about early voting because this is the first year that we have had in this state early voting, especially in Niagara County. Michael Wooten is looking into all of that for us. Michael?
Yeah, Steve, we thought that just shortly after 9 o'clock we would get the early vote in for Erie County, but as of now, still no vote total to show you from Erie County. But we do have some numbers from Niagara County now where the early voting turnout was not very impressive. 132,000 registered voters in the county. Fewer than 2,000 people went and cast an early ballot. It is the first year. We'll see if that improves, but it's a little less than 1.5% voter turnout. But we do have that early vote in now. Of course, the race that we keep talking about in Niagara County that we're keeping a very close eye on is for Niagara Falls mayor. So bear with me here. I'm just going to scroll down for a second because we just got this early vote in. So Robert Restaino, 52.5% of the early vote. Now, we caution you to take too much away from this because the early vote is such a small percentage of the total vote that's going to come in. But the Democrat there with 52.5% of the vote, the Republican Glenn Chalukian with 22%. So if that gives us any indication, at least how the early vote went, it's looking to be a pretty good night for Robert Restaino. But again, such a small percentage, I want to stress that, of the early vote as a percentage of the total vote, guys.
All right, terrific. And I guess we have some vote totals coming in from Niagara Falls at this particular point in time. Keep in mind that we've got Robert Restaino, who's running as a Democrat, Glenn Chalukian, who ran previously. He ran 4 years ago. People kind of lose track of this as a write-in candidate, got almost 1,300 votes as a write-in candidate in an election where a little bit more than 9,000 votes were cast, which is an impressive accomplishment. The early vote totals in, and obviously this is very early, but Restaino out in front. As far as that's concerned, here's the possibility that we're looking at tonight. If the mayor's race is a coin toss, and I'm told up in Niagara Falls that it is, and there's a possibility that there would be a Republican mayor, that would be a headline that 4 years ago you couldn't have seen coming, that there would be a Republican mayor there. As a matter of fact, I kind of joked with folks when I first got back here in 2014. As far as I could tell, the Republican Party in the city of Niagara Falls was a rumor, because there weren't any Republicans. But now you have a Republican state senator, you have a Republican assemblyman, you've got the possibility, after tonight, the Republicans could control the city council and the mayor's office all at once. Is this a function of, well, the Democrats up there, the city's not doing very well financially, it's time to make a change just to see if something happens? Or is there a genuine political shift here, Carl?
Well, it could be both. I mean, the long-term shift has to start with people saying maybe we should try something different for a change and see if it works out. And if it does, then you see a realignment over time. But, you know, you have to wonder at what point, you look at a lot of the major cities in America run by Democrats and run by Democrats for 20, 30, 40 years. And you look at the conditions of poverty and race and pollution and crime and all of those issues that are making these unlivable cities. You wonder at what point do people say, maybe I ought to try something different. And maybe that's happened in Niagara Falls.
You know, my distinguished historian colleague has a lot to say about the structures of urban systems. Sometimes it comes down to the people you know. And Niagara Falls is a face-to-face community. There aren't a lot of people participating in this election. And you know what? Chalukian has been around for a really long time.
He has.
Okay.
Former member of the council.
So, you know, if you know the name and you have a few bucks going for you, Paul Deister was mayor since what, 1358? I mean,
he's wrapping up his third. He is wrapping up his third term. Just so that we're clear.
But I mean, look, name recognition. Sometimes the dynamics are very strange. You know, look, we're looking at a situation where the turnout in Erie County is so low in the core Democratic areas that you scratch your head and you say, well, how could Mark Poloncarz lose this? There's no drama. There's no change. Everybody knows who he is. But, you know, the turnout is the turnout is the turnout. Those numbers that we saw from Niagara Falls are completely meaningless, by the way.
Right, because they're so very early. Right. But speaking of the Niagara Falls race, and we have this, and I want to go to it before we lose track of it. The mayoral race, Leanne Stuck just caught up with Republican Glenn Chalukian. So, Leanne.
Good evening, Steve. That's right. I will be covering the City of Niagara Falls mayoral race into the night. I'll be introducing you to every single candidate that is on the ballot. First off, I want to introduce you to Republican candidate Glenn Chalukian. So tell us a little bit about why you are running for mayor.
Well, you know what? I've been here my whole life. I'm a two-term councilman. I have businesses in Niagara Falls. My kids and wife has been here a long time. I've made a lot of difference in the community of Niagara Falls over the years as a councilman. Last time I ran, I lost my 63 votes. I thought I was all done with politics, but just between the overwhelming support and people calling, they're crying for change for Niagara Falls, and I believe I'm the only one that can change Niagara Falls into a better direction. So I'm excited.
So yeah, we do know that you ran for mayor in 2015 against current mayor Paul Deister. It was the primary for the Democratic election. So just tell us a little about why you're running for a Republican this time.
Well, you know, like I said, when I was done the last time, I lost by 63. On a federal level, me and my wife switched on we have beliefs, you know, we don't believe in abortion, stuff like that. So we just switched to Republican, more conservative. Didn't think I was going to run. You know, like I said, with people reaching out to me over the wintertime, I think just between the business people and the families of Niagara Falls, they had enough and they believed in me. I almost got 2,000 write-ins last time. So they kind of gave me that spark again, and I got excited again, and I started going door to door, and we have the same problems that we were talking about for 40 years. I believe I'm the only one that can move Niagara Falls forward, and they believe me, so that's why I'm running again.
One of the biggest challenges facing the next mayor of Niagara Falls is creating more revenue for the city. How would you do that?
Well, same thing. We got to market Niagara Falls. We have 7 million people that come to Niagara Falls to see the wonders of the world, right? We have good workforce here. We have good families here. We have opportunities here. We got to market in a different way, and we got to stop spending money. We had an opportunity to receive $300 million of casino money, and it was wasted. As a councilman, I stopped a lot of that. We have to do things different, and I'm excited because I'm the first one to really put a plan out how we're going to change Niagara Falls. I put a video series together. It shows exactly how we're going to do it, what we're going to do. We're going to do things different with new technology. It's going to be cheaper. That's going to free up money. We're going to start doing things in a better direction to change the revenue stream of having a positive outcome. You know?
That's what I was going to say. You just brought up another big point is how would you handle the current casino revenue sharing dispute that's going on?
You know, I tell you, all through my campaign, like there's the 99H, the agreement is with the state of New York and the Seneca Nation. I believe with my personality, my background, I'm going to go to the Seneca Nation, and we're going to work out things, what they want to do to help us in Niagara Falls. The state and the Senecas, they could have their differences, but I believe the Seneca Nation wants to help Niagara Falls. So we're going to say, you know, can you fund 5 police officers for us? Can you help fix some streets? Can we do I got a lot of ideas. I think we're going to work together, and I'm excited.
And if you were elected mayor tonight, what would be your first piece of business in office?
Well, my first piece of business is take a step back. Like I tell people, when everybody tries to speed stuff up, we got to slow it down. We got to look at each situation one thing at a time and see what's important. And my most important thing is everything we're going to do is the people of Niagara Falls, the small business, the families, they're coming first. So we're going to do everything in the first couple months for the people that live here.
Well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes for us, Glenn. Good luck to you. And again, as I said, I will be introducing you to all of the candidates in the mayoral race. Stick with us here on WGRZ.com and our 2 on Your Side app. In Niagara Falls, Leanne Stock, Channel 2 News.
Leon, thank you very much. We're going to obviously keep track of that race very closely because it's one of the big 2. Carl, you've gotten some information in from Mark Poloncarz's hometown.
Yeah, I got a text from a political leader in Lackawanna who said the first 4 districts to report in shows it very close, almost dead even between Mark Poloncarz and Lynn Dixon. That's interesting because Lackawanna is a heavily Democrat city, and it's also the hometown of, as you said, of the county executive. So if that's a trend and it holds up, that's a very interesting early development.
Bruce, if Mark Poloncarz is thought to be safe anywhere, that seems like it would be the place, isn't it?
I know that Lynn Dixon is from Lackawanna too, so they can basically both call. Sean Ryan, our assemblyman, is from
But
Lackawanna.
I think Mark,
it's a Lackawanna kind of.
Mark weaves that into every one of his stump speeches about he's the son of a steel worker and the son of a teacher, and they're both from Lackawanna.
And you know what? Whoever was pulling the votes out paid attention to Lackawanna because guess what? The numbers should be hands down for Poloncarz. They should be, absolutely. So. Again, the city of Buffalo. If the city of Buffalo turnout is 20%, you know, whose idea was that? You got to look right to the party chair and say, why did you structure this so that there was no interest in people coming out to vote?
But there just doesn't, I mean, from my standpoint, there doesn't seem to be a level of excitement within the city borders about this particular election. And I have to believe that the Democratic Party knew about that coming into this, didn't they?
No drama Obama did fine in his reelection.
Right,
okay?
because it's
But
Barack
no drama
Obama.
Poloncarz needs some help, you know, evidently, because if folks don't have a reason to come out to vote for their council member, for their legislator, for their school board, I mean, there are lots of places where there's a lot of activity. Amherst, there's a lot of activity. Turnout is high. But turnout is always high in Amherst. In Cheektowaga, there's some activity. West Seneca, there's more activity. There wasn't much activity inside the city of Buffalo. I mean,
so that's got to be good news for you, right, Carl?
Yeah, look, if there's a downside to being a totally one-party city, a dominant one-party city, this is it. This is it, that your election day really occurs in June on primary day.
Sure.
Okay, that's it. And that's exactly what happened in the city, is all but one councilmanic race was decided in the primary. And the only one that has an opponent is the Niagara district with David Rivera. And so this, again, it's a double-edged sword. Your one-party system in Buffalo usually works out well for you, but when you need a big turnout in a year like this and you have nothing going on at the grassroots level in the largest municipality in Erie County, that's a downside.
David Rivera has a spirited race from our good friend Mark Supples, and the Democrats have two good choices there, because almost everybody in that district is a Democrat, including 99% of the people who are going to vote for Mark Supples.
All right, and just a few minutes ago, we heard from Glenn Chalokian in the Niagara Falls mayor's race. Leanne Stuck just spoke with Jeffrey Elder, and she has that for us now. Leanne?
Good evening, Steve. That's right. Again, I am covering the mayoral race in the city of Niagara Falls tonight, and I have another candidate to introduce you to now. Jeffrey Elder joins me now. He's running as an independent for this seat. So tell me a little about why you're running for mayor.
Well, I'm really running because for so long, nobody has really been doing anything to try to help Niagara Falls get to where it needs to be. Over the past 2 decades, Niagara Falls was known as the honeymoon capital of the world. They had so many things to offer, and now every time I've been coming back from the D.C. area, we've been losing things left and right. And I told President Clinton back in 1998, I said, Mr. President, I'm going to be that man to go back and help Niagara Falls get on its feet. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm following up on that dream. My grandmother told me, never forget where you came from. I haven't, and that's why I came back, and that's what I'm doing.
You have a very unique background. You've never run for office before. You have a military background. Tell us more about it.
So my military background is going to allow me, if you know anything about a military person, they're all about getting the job done. The military person knows if there's something to do, they're going to just get it done. They leave the politics out of it. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm bringing common sense leadership to the city of Niagara Falls, and that common sense leadership is what's going to take us to a dynamic new future.
One of the biggest challenges facing anybody who ends up as the next mayor of the city of Niagara Falls is, how do we generate revenue for the city? How would you do that?
Well, many of the things that we're going to do is tourism is our major industry. We have over 8 million people coming to the city on a yearly basis, spending their hard-earned money, and we need to make sure that we capitalize on that. I've been to places all around the world. I've seen things going on in many of those countries, and I've been asking them, hey, how did you do that? Because we want to do that in Niagara Falls. And everywhere I go, I say, why can't we do that in Niagara Falls? Why can't we do that in Niagara Falls? So I've been reaching out to the people, and now I'm telling them now's the time to come and reinvest in Niagara.
Another big challenge is the casino revenue sharing dispute. What is your take on it, and what do we do next?
Well, being at the Department of State has the best diplomats in the world. I know diplomacy, so I know how to talk to people. I know we need to get the Senecas back to the table. We need to coexist. They're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Things have happened in the past. Those things are behind us, just like your rearview mirror is small for a reason, because those things behind you don't matter. We need to look forward, and we need to change those things that are coming up in the future. That's why your windshield is so big. We need to look towards the future, and we're going to definitely be reaching out to the Senecas to make sure that we can coexist with them.
If you are elected mayor tonight, what would be your first piece of business?
Well, the first piece of business will be opening up the books to see exactly where we stand with everything. As a military person, we need to know what we have to work with and where we need to actually go. And that's going to be the very first thing that we do.
Excellent. Mr. Elder, thank you so much. Good luck tonight. Again, we will be covering the mayoral race into the night. I will be introducing you to every candidate that is on the ballot. Make sure you stick with us here on WGRZ.com and our 2 on Your Side app for all election coverage. For now in Niagara Falls, Leanne Stuck, Channel 2 News.
Let's stay with the Niagara Falls mayoral race. Michael has some new numbers. Numbers that show what, Michael? What do we have so far?
Okay, so Here's how we'll explain this, Steve, because there are actually some news outlets, just to be perfectly transparent with everybody, who have already called the Niagara Falls mayor's race, even though we are very early into this, and there is some real confusion because you have early vote totals. So the way news organizations get numbers and share them with you throughout the night is oftentimes we have software that will go into the websites and into the data systems with the county boards of elections and take those numbers, and then so we can present them with you. Well, there are 37 precincts, districts in the Niagara Falls mayor's race. There were early vote totals from all of those that they kind of sprinkled throughout. And so in some ways, people are thinking that the total vote is in for the Niagara Falls mayor's race. That is not the case. The totals right now, we can tell you, Robert Restaino, 51%, Glenn Chalokian, about 26%. You can see only 1,400 total ballots in that race. So obviously it is way too early to be making any calls on that. And we can tell you, if we click on the district details here, it'll take us and show all 37 of those districts. At this point, only 6 of them are showing any vote totals. So do the math there. That tells you the percentage of the vote that is in. 6 of the 37 districts have reported their votes. That means we're waiting on 6 of the 37. That means we're waiting on 31 districts to still send in their vote totals from Election Day. All the early vote was in. It wasn't a lot of votes, but we only have 6 of the 37 districts in for the Election Day vote. But it didn't further confuse anybody, Steve, but the overall message here is that it is still extremely early in the Niagara Falls mayor's race.
It's going to be a long night, and I have a feeling the night is about to get longer with this little bit of news that's been shared with us by our digital director, Kim DeGeorge. Apparently there are some issues with the Erie County Board of Elections, that they're still running the chips, if you will, from the machines from the early vote, from the 30 days of early vote. So we have not yet got to, if I understand this correctly, their counting of today's vote, which is the other, potentially 94% or 96% of the vote.
I wore the right logo for tonight. I wore my Looney Tunes tie.
This is not a good look, which not being able to get results. Not being able to get results on an election night is not a good look.
This is unprecedented. I can never remember a night this long after the polls have closed where there's no numbers up at all.
Especially when you're talking about low turnout. I mean, it's just, it's from bad to worse. You've got low turnout, we've got slow results on top of low turnout, which also tends to drive people who are conspiratorial about thinking about why this is all happening. I'm not asking you to put on your county election commissioner hat, Bruce, but in your experience with elections here.
Off with their heads.
Aside from summary execution, which I'm never in favor of, what could be happening here? Do we think we got a technology problem?
I think that early voting is a brand new thing, and somebody has to probably physically go in and reset a SIM card, or at least do resetting of some programming. Look, the conversation about the technology will be resolved within minutes or maybe a couple of hours at the most. The bigger issue is that we have such a low participation rate, okay? With 20% turnout in the city, this is a big deal election. It's the biggest thing in the media market until, holy cow, this isn't just beanbag here. This is the county executive who is in charge of, roads for almost 1,100 square miles.
1,200 miles of road, and he talks about it all the time. More than Rhode Island, more than
thousands of acres of parks, the entire library system, all the culturals. The sheriffs, we have an Army and a Navy and an Air Force in here. We have a foreign policy here. We have emergency response stuff that goes on. This is a big deal. This is the administrative center of one of the largest states in the union, the second largest population center in New York State. It's a
$1.5 billion budget.
Right. So, hello, why are people staying home? I understand about the competence, the confidence in a no drama leader, but where are the voters? Why the disengagement? Is it that people are cynical? Is it that people know there's something not quite right in the Buffalo Renaissance? That maybe this is the emperor's new clothes and they just want to stay away from it? What's going on around here? Are people just turned off because politics has become so vicious And even when it's nice, like in this town, in this time, in this race, they still don't want to engage. It's a crisis when people aren't turning out.
Carl, no sizzle in this race? Is it that simple?
No, this is systemic. I mean, people are disengaging from social and civic interaction across the country in many forms. They're not joining service clubs anymore. They're not volunteering. They're not going to church. They're not voting. For whatever reason, there's lots of reasons. Someone wrote a book not long ago called Bowling Alone.
Yes.
About this disintegration of what used to be good, strong social bonds that people felt, a real civic responsibility to get out and vote and to go to church and to go to the Rotary Club meeting. Boy, that seems like another America.
They're interested in Amherst. I mean, Gene Vinyl is out there campaigning with enthusiasm. There's sort of, educated middle-class folks in Amherst are participating. Educated middle-class folks in Orchard Park are participating. But, where the income is lower, where maybe the household stress is higher, folks are not looking to politics in the way that they used to.
But that's the special sauce that gets Republicans elected countywide.
But
if you get low participation in the city and you get more than a little bit of participation out in the burbs.
And low participation in the working class suburbs like Cheektowaga, Lancaster.
But look at the tone of the campaign. Again, we weren't talking about future issues. How do we govern ourselves? How do we make the next leap as a community? We're not talking about those things that get people interested and forward-looking. We're running commercials, both sides, basically saying, this other person is a reprobate who ought to be in prison, let alone running for public office.
Or photoshopping.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I like.
How about let's talk about water? How about talk about climate change, water quality, energy transition, population change?
And we can talk about all of that.
Come
but
on.
I need to talk about, with Leanne Stuck, some numbers about the Niagara Falls mayor's race, and a lot more have come in. And this is the way it's looking. And early on, this looks like Robert Rustino's night, because he's picked off 50% of the vote thus far. I'm looking at almost 3,000 votes that he has versus almost 1,500 for Glenn Chalokian, which suggests that Democrats will have the inside edge, if you will, in order to be able to pick off that seat. That's 68% of the precincts reporting and 50% of the vote with Robert Rustino. Does any of this translate into a different near-term fate for the city of Niagara Falls? They've had difficulty with their budgeting. They've had difficulty with revenues coming in. They have settled all of their union contracts, but not perhaps in the greatest favor for the city in order to be able to do creative things when money gets tight. So what kind of city government would the next mayor get their hands on, whether it's Rustino or Chalokian?
A disaster, a structural disaster, decades in the making, that no local leaders are going to be able to do other than manage as supplicants for more and more and more state aid. Look, if the population is dropping, if the value of the real estate is dropping, if you can't get the buyers of the tourism experience to stay on this side of the border because of all of the above, you've got a problem that is going to be hard to manage. Not to say nothing of the fact that every kind of trouble in every kind of household related to every kind of substance abuse seems to be centered in these small and medium-sized cities, Carl. I mean, this is the problem in Niagara Falls, looks like the problem in Jamestown, looks like the problem wherever the jobs are leaving.
Is this really a situation, Carl, where if there's going to be a solution to the chronic budget woes here, that the solutions are going to have to come from Albany because they don't look like they're going to be able to come from Niagara Falls?
That's a short-term solution. Eventually, you've got to reform the city. I mean, I've often said, here we have a city that's blessed with one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, and you say, how could this happen? How could you fall from that peak, the honeymoon capital of America, of the world, to where we are today? Well, you got to work at it. I mean, it takes a lot of almost planning, of mismanagement to get to that point, and we are at that point, and it has a lot to do with all kind of the organized crime factor, the corruption in government,
just the warnings from the state comptroller's office about how casino revenues have been spent. They've been warned time and time again. and I've had conversations with Paul Deister about this, about how the controller says you should be putting this money away for economic development. Don't rely on it as an everyday budgetary resource to fund what it is that you're doing right now. And typically what Paul Deister has said to me is, thank goodness we have it. And then they spent it. Well, that's
because
great.
if you have no tax base, you're going to be getting the casino money, state aid, and money from bake sales, because the tax base to yield the dollars to pay the people to plow the streets, to fix the streets. Have you tried to drive in the city of Niagara Falls?
I'm a cyclist. I go through that city all the time.
Holy cow.
Yeah, there are parts of it that are pretty rough, and people know it there.
Right.
But to me, this speaks to what's happening in the city. It speaks to
the tax base moved beyond the boundaries of the city. Okay,
Much
that
of
has
it.
happened. That has happened in all the Rust Belt cities. The structural problems in all of the Cleveland and Niagara Falls, Buffalo and Pittsburgh, Detroit and Milwaukee and Dayton are all the same place.
Except you cannot recreate a natural wonder of the world in Milwaukee or any of those other cities. They've got it. It has not. I mean, let's face it. It's just been terribly mismanaged.
And I have to jump in. Two on Your Side is ready to call the Niagara Falls mayor's race. We're calling it for Robert Restaino. He is it appears to us that it is quite clear that he is going to be the next mayor of the city of Niagara Falls.
We're getting results from Niagara County Board of Elections. We're getting results from Chautauqua and Cattaraugus County Board of Elections, and 0 from Erie County Board of Elections.
Those must be very, very heavy chips. Maybe crunchy chips, you know? But early voting, why didn't they just hire kids with abacuses for that part?
Or, they used to run these things in from
How
the
did we do
burbs
it?
and out in the districts. So,
We used to
we're
have
calling
Numbers would be
numbers.
put on a great big blackboard. It was great.
Yeah.
It worked, yeah.
But getting back to the city of Niagara Falls, we're going to have Robert Restaino come January. He's going to be the new mayor there. If you folks both have governmental experience, he's kind of locked in with union contracts. He's kind of locked in with anticipated revenue. He does not have an ability to be able to say that there's going to be an increase in casino revenue coming into the city. So given all of that, what do you do?
He better be asking different people for advice. Because if you ask the same people who are around the same table, they're going to tell you the same thing, which has gotten you the same results. So he better be talking to other people elsewhere who have done turnarounds.
My understanding is all of the contracts, all of the union contracts for the city have all been settled. They're all signed. So, Carl, do those folks have to come to the table and have a conversation with about what the city's going to look like for the next 2 or 3 years?
You've got to have major restructuring, and I think there's only 2 ways to get there. One is voluntarily, where the unions come to the table. Bruce, I don't know about you, but the odds of that seem, the old sayings, slim and none, and slim just like town on a horse.
It's either some people take a hit or a lot of people take a hit.
No, unions don't care about that. Public union concessions, layoffs don't matter. Concessions do.
I gotta let Bruce in on that. Do they not care? I mean, I don't believe that, Bruce.
No, I'll tell you why. Let me tell you why.
They don't care.
Oh no, I'll tell you why. If you're a union leader, and somebody gets laid off, they stop making money. They don't earn a salary. When they don't earn a salary, they don't pay union dues. When they don't pay union dues, they can't vote in a union election. Okay? So if they're not voting in a union election, you can't get hurt politically. You make concessions, and I guarantee you, the next time you're up for union president election, your opponent's going to say, he sold you out to management. You elect me, and I'm going to get you all of those concessions back and more.
But the logic of that is, Bruce, that they only care about the union president's only cared about the union president, as opposed to the city that draws the income for all the people that he represents? Is it really that simple?
I think you talk to a local union leader, and you will find in a local union leader, sadly, too often, not the same thinking of a regional union leader is saying, let's figure this out. But a guy who has finally gotten out of that plow truck and gets to not go to work every day and punch in every day in the same way is very reluctant to lose. Look, that problem is not going to be solved from the workforce. The problem of the structural deficit of the city, the insolvency of these cities, is not going to be found in the pockets of the workers. That is a Republican talking point. And I'll tell you that the structural problems of these cities are not going to be solved
not about-
unless there's new inputs.
It's also about work rules. It's also about work rules and efficiency. It's not just about the dollars and cents. It's about how you get the job done.
The city of Buffalo is structurally insolvent, which is why it has a control board. I expect that the city of Niagara Falls, it will have a control board.
But
It's
that
called
would
the
require
fiscal-
the legislature, democratically run, to be able to say, you know what, we're going to take the keys away from you folks, and we're going to do it our way for a while because you hadn't done it well.
And the governor.
Do you see the Democratic Party statewide?
The governor
willing
of
to
the
walk
state of
into
New
the
York-
Niagara Falls and say, sorry, you're out. You're
Absolutely.
out.
The governor, he did it in Syracuse. He had a mayor in Syracuse, and Stephanie Miner, who was the party chair. And he walked into Syracuse and said, you must, thou shalt, because we are ultimately the ones who are going to have to pay the bill.
All right, we need to go to Leanne because she has the winner up in Niagara Falls, Robert Rustino. No, I'm sorry. We have a winner in the race. 50-25, Robert Rustino,
Wow.
50% to 25%, a substantial win up in Niagara Falls tonight. He is your new mayor of the city of Niagara Falls coming up next January. We're going to have some county executive numbers also coming up on the screen, as I understand it, and these are substantial numbers as well. We've got precinct number percentage is not up, but I am reading something in the neighborhood of 15,000 votes in from our Poloncarz, and Lynn Dixon's something close to 10,000. This is just the early vote, we're told. So this is simply the early vote totals that we were talking about earlier on. We have not yet gotten to the today vote totals as we understand it. We got about 30 seconds.
He should win by 10 points, even though the turnout is low.
Carl, if he wins by less than 10 points, is it a victory for Republicans?
No, it's a victory for Mark Poloncarz. He'll be disappointed if he wins by less than 10 points.
Yeah.
He'll think he should have won by more, but he will have won.
All right, terrific. Both gentlemen, thank you very much. We have much more ahead.
You know, you're pretty good at arithmetic. You know?
He's very good with math. Much more ahead, including more coverage on the line at 10:30. But we need to take a break so that we can fit in some news. Channel 2 News at 10 coming up next.
Sorry about that, Bruce. Well, that's those North Tonawanda Germans where you're going for schnapps.
She's Irish.
What?
She's Irish, 66%. She did her DNA. There's no joke.
Testing 1 2 3 4 5 4 3 2 1 2 3 4 5 4 3 2 1.
Did you not know that, Bruce? It's true. It's true. She won the lottery.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Heather's mic check 1 2 3 4.
Hello there, this is Bruce Boucher, and I'm going to have a drink of this particular water.
Carl Calabrese, I've just been watered.
Charlie's mic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's music.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you tell me what time we're hitting so I can let Julie know?
Check 1, 2, 3, check 1, 2, 3, check 1, 2, 3.
Well, the polls have now officially closed for Decision 2019. And good evening, I'm Scott Levin.
And I'm Mary Alice Demler. Ballots are now being counted in several local races, which you can see coming in live right at the bottom of your screen and on our website. Now, right now, we're looking at a few of the big races, including the race for Erie County Executive. Over an hour into counting votes, and we still don't have many results for the biggest race in Erie County right now. Republican challenger Lynn Dixon is going against Democratic incumbent Mark Poloncarz. You can see right about now it is 39% for Dixon and 61% for Poloncarz, but of course just a small percentage of the votes in.
All right, but there is a race that we can call right now. The mayoral race up in Niagara County for Democrat Robert Rustino with 50% of the vote in, or 50%. This is the city's first new mayor in 12 years, folks, after Mayor Paul Deister decided not to run for re-election earlier this year. Well, two on your sides, Steve Brown joins us now with some special guests for more analysis on the races this year. Steve?
Yes, we have Carl Calabrese, Bruce Fisher. Robert Rustino is going to be walking into office in January to an unsettled fiscal situation. They've been taking a look at things like a garbage fee, and they have postponed the vote on this. Is there any way that's avoidable at this particular point in time,
No.
given the city's finances?
No.
That's a flat no.
They've got to restructure the budget because there aren't enough dollars. The tax base isn't large enough to sustain a unified budget. And it's probably going to be a control board or a control board-like situation.
But do you see, Carl, a Democratic assembly, a Democratic senator, and a Democratic governor simply saying to the city of Niagara Falls, sorry, you've got a Democratic mayor there, but we're going to take the keys away from you for a while?
If it gets bad enough, yes. And it's happened before, and it could happen again. And you know, when you have a crisis and a meltdown, you have to do dramatic things, and I think we're getting very close to that.
Is there no way to avoid this, in your opinions?
The structure of the economy up there has changed. There's no longer huge employment. Most of the tax base has crossed the boundary into the suburbs, into the town of Niagara. Look, this is the situation that Rust Belt towns are in. Restructuring is going to happen one way, the happy way, or the forced way.
And if it's the happy way, you're going to have a complete change of attitudes and mindsets from everybody, labor, management, community groups, all the different interest groups. And boy, that's a tall order.
We came very close in Erie County and the city of Buffalo, but guess what? Politics prevented it.
All right. Bruce, Carl, thank you so very much. We're going to have a lot more from both of you a little bit later on tonight.
Hopefully we have some numbers.
Oh, and hopefully we'll have some numbers from Erie County. That would be really helpful to have.
Wow.
Back to you, Scott Marion.
All right, Steve, thank you very much, guys. Speaking of numbers, our numbers are continuing to update right now as more votes continue to come in to our information center. Be sure to follow us on air, online, and follow the hashtag Decision2019.
And now let's get an update from both headquarters for the Erie County executive races with two on your sides, Claudine Ewing and Kelly Dudzik. And Claudine, we'll start with you.
So as we've been telling you all night long, we are at the Statler, where this is serving as the Democratic headquarters for tonight. Of course, the big race is for Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz. As you can hear, it's pretty loud behind me because right now they're hearing from other candidates who have won on the Democratic Party line. The results are coming in. As you can see behind me, that's Darius Pridgeon speaking. He will remain on the Buffalo Common Council. But going back to the Erie County executives race, we are told that Mark Poloncarz is optimistic about tonight, optimistic that he will win tonight. Well, it remains to be seen exactly what the numbers show. Turnout, we are told, will be key. Did the voters come out in the city on that line? Did the voters come out in the suburbs, in the rural areas? That will be key. Also, we had early voting happening this year. Let's see what's happening at the Republican headquarters, where my colleague Kelly Dudzik is standing by live right now. Hello there, Kelly.
Claudine, I'm at the Avant in downtown Buffalo, where Republican supporters are here waiting for those results to come in. And tonight I'm focusing on Lynn Dixon's campaign. Republicans are confident that she can unseat incumbent Mark Poloncarz. And she's been a county legislator for almost 10 years now, representing parts of South Buffalo and some of Buffalo's suburbs. This has been a campaign that has featured some fierce words about county roads and county taxes. I'll be updating you online, both on Twitter and Facebook, and I'll see you guys again at 11 o'clock. But for now, live in downtown Buffalo, Kelly Dudzik, Channel 2 News.
All right, Kelly and Claudine, thank you. And our coverage of Decision 2019 is far from over. We have much more coming up tonight at 11 over on Channel 2. You can also find the results of every single local race at the bottom of your screen on WGRZ.com or on the 2 on Your Side app, which you can download for free right now.
Shielding drug dealers. Coming up next, new charges against a retired DEA agent who's accused of using his position to help his friends, and other top stories across Western New York today.
And a little bit later, honoring a firefighter. We'll show you the support for a man in uniform battling cancer. 2 on Your Side at 10. We'll be right back. Now to a look at some of the other top stories in Western New York tonight. A former DEA agent has been indicted on bribery charges. The U.S. Attorney announced the 11-count indictment this afternoon, accusing 55-year-old Joseph Bongiovanni of using his position to shield his drug-dealing friends. Prosecutors say over the course of 11 years, he took at least $250,000 in bribes from drug dealers while passing on critical information about investigations to co-conspirators. Bongiovanni pleaded not guilty at his arraignment in federal court and did not speak afterward. He was released on bond and will be electronically monitored on home confinement.
Well, it was nearly 10 days ago when a Maserati crashed into a Toyota on Seneca Street, killing 2 people, 33-year-old AJ 25 III and 32-year-old Kristen LeBruno. They were in the other car and they both died. 2 wanted to know why they haven't identified a suspect as of yet. BPD spokesperson Captain Jeff Ronaldo said that they haven't released the name of the driver because he hasn't been charged yet. And the reason he hasn't been charged yet is that investigators are still waiting on some key evidence to return. In terms of when we might get an update on this case, Captain Ronaldo says it takes 4, possibly 8 weeks to get toxicology results alone.
Amherst police are investigating a threatening photo which was sent to several students through Snapchat at Sweet Home High School. The photo showed a man with a gun strapped on his back saying, quote, "Don't come to school on the 6th. Police do not believe there is any credible threat. However, extra precautions will be taken throughout the school day tomorrow.
Well, right now, here's a live look over downtown Buffalo. Looking beautiful tonight from our Hyatt cam. When we come back, Heather has your full forecast. You're watching 2 on Your Side at 10 on Fox. And before we get to weather, here is another quick look at the numbers for the Erie County Executive's race. Republican challenger Lynn Dixon is up against Democratic incumbent Mark Poloncarz right now. Dixon has 31% and Mark Poloncarz is 69%. It looks like almost 25% of the precincts are reporting right now.
Well, we just talked about it being a colder night tonight than we've seen in a while.
Yeah, and there is some snow on the ground in some parts of Western New York right now, right, Heather?
Yeah, we're talking numbers a lot tonight, guys, and a lot of the numbers I have to show are not going to be numbers that a lot of folks are going to be fans of. Here's a look at the 5-day forecast. 43 the high tomorrow. That's not too far off from where we were today, but we're only getting into the upper 30s as we go into the day on Thursday. That's where we see that rain-snow mix start to set up as we get into the second half of the day, too. Snow looks to set up probably around 11 o'clock or noon, right around midday. Here's a look at the radar over the past few hours. We had a steady band of some rain and snow showers set up just to the east of Lake Erie. Had some reports coming in from Bennington in Wyoming County of snow starting at around 7 o'clock. Not likely that it's accumulating all that much, although there could be a quick ½ inch to 1 inch overnight into early tomorrow morning. Temperatures right now mid to upper 30s. So it's a wet snow. Watch for some slick spots in the interior parts of the southern tier. Wider view of the radar shows that all the Great Lakes are coming alive at this point. Winds are picking up out of the west. Not all that strong, at least not in downtown Buffalo, but a few odd gusts, 20 to 25 miles per hour overnight tonight and into the day tomorrow. Here's future look how that's going to be setting up as we go through the next 48 hours. Not much going on tomorrow. We'll start off with some sunshine. Then as we go into the second half of the day, we'll watch for the clouds to increase. We'll start to get some snow showers that may start to sneak into the northern half of the area late Wednesday evening, but it's really not until Wednesday night into early Thursday that we start to see the steadier precipitation. You saw that quick changeover from some rain showers into some snow showers. This is where we're likely to get that accumulating snowfall, and looks at this point to be light to moderate, but biggest accumulations most likely south of the thruway, the interior parts of the southern tier, areas we've been talking about for the last couple of days already. In the wake of that steady snow later Thursday into Friday, some brief periods of lake effect, but the bigger story Friday is going to be the cold. Pay attention to the temperatures here as we go through the next 24 to 36 hours or so. Notice late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, we're in the upper 30s. That's mild enough that most of the precipitation should be rain. Then as we go into late Wednesday night, early on Thursday morning, that's when the colder air starts to filter in. We see that rain change over to a wet snow, and through Thursday afternoon, the temperature should slowly start to drop down. That's where we're more likely to start to get some of that snowfall accumulation. But keep in mind, mid to late afternoon, the sun angle fairly high. That tends to inhibit some of that snowfall accumulation, and by the time we get to sunset, most of that widespread snow should be done. Then we get into that northerly breeze. Looking at anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of snow across the interior portions of the southern tier. Around Buffalo, up to an inch of snow. Same thing goes for areas closer to Lake Erie, farther off to the south. So for Wednesday, mainly dry throughout the day. We'll watch for a few showers later on. Rain and snow showers then overnight Wednesday into Thursday. That'll turn into a steady, mainly light to moderate snowfall for a few hours through midday on Thursday. Again, looking at 2 to 5 inches of snow accumulating in the interior southern tier. Up to an inch, our first round of accumulating snowfall for Buffalo. That'll be ending later Thursday, making way for some lake effect Thursday night into Friday. It's getting cold on Friday, no doubt about that. Temperatures could be some of the coldest we've seen during the daytime for that specific date, November 8th. We'll get a little bit of a reprieve over the weekend, but don't expect anything too warm. Then near record cold early next week. And in fact, all the way through mid-November, high likelihood of temperatures well below normal. So get your winter stuff out if you haven't yet. 7-day forecast has close to 40 Saturday and Sunday, then much colder again on Monday. We're back with more 2 on your side at 10 in just a bit.
And welcome back. A volunteer firefighter and U.S. Marine Corps veteran got a special escort home from Roswell Park today. Gus Buzek has been diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. And his brother and sister, firefighters in Cheektowaga, they wanted to help him get home to be with his family in hospice care. Fellow firefighters say that they know that Gus would do the same for any of them.
Well, I think it's just showing our support for a brother fireman. He'd be there for us, first thing. We're here for them.
It means a lot to everyone in this department. He's the one guy that you can call on to help you with anything.
Southline firefighters emphasize that everyone who works for their company becomes family, so when one of them hurts, they all hurt.
And another local firefighter was honored statewide today. Governor Andrew Cuomo directed all government buildings to fly flags at half-staff today for former Gettsville Fire Chief Irving Eisenberg. He's the firefighter who died of cancer related to his service at Ground Zero after 9/11. He was laid to rest here in Western New York yesterday. Stay with us. Decision 2019 coverage continues right after this.
And welcome back once again to Decision 2019. Polls have been closed now for just a little bit over an hour now, and we are starting to see some results roll in.
And while we're following several races, which you can see right at the bottom of your screen, let's take a look at the top races we're tracking tonight.
And that, of course, is the Erie County Executives race. Republican challenger Lynn Dixon is once again up against a Democratic incumbent, Mark Poloncarz. Right now you can see Mark Poloncarz winning pretty well here, 71% to Lynn Dixon's 29%. And it looks like about a third of the precincts are reporting as of right now.
And back now to that big win for Democrat Robert Restaino up in Niagara County. He is Niagara Falls' first new mayor in 12 years after Mayor Paul Deister decided not to run for re-election. Our Leanne Stuck just spoke to Restaino, who won with 50% of the vote.
Is there any final message you'd want to send to the people who voted for you tonight, or what they can expect from you as mayor?
Well, they can expect honesty, they can expect transparency, and they can expect accountability. And I want to thank them for trusting me with the next 4 years. And I hope that as I work through these problems that we face, that they and I will see a brighter future for Niagara Falls.
There it is, the new mayor-elect of Niagara Falls. And 2 on your sides, Michael Wooten has been in our information center all evening, and he's here to break down some of the big numbers this decision 2019. Right now, Michael has a look at the county legislature races. Some interesting ones there, Michael.
Yeah, Mary Alice, in Erie County, all 11 seats are up for grabs during this election cycle. We'll show you the current makeup of the Erie County legislature right now. You have 7 Democrats and then 4 county legislators who caucus as Republicans. And so if there's going to be a change in the balance of power here, Republicans will need to pick up 2 seats. We're paying close attention to 4 seats in all. Lynn Dixon's seat, she's running for county executive. Republicans would need to hold on to that, and the early vote is not looking good there. And then there are 3 of these Democratic seats that we're taking a look at here. So we'll go through the numbers. I want to caution you, this is mostly the early vote. Not a lot of vote total is in from Election Day, but this gives us a sense of where things are looking right now. First, in the 4th district, we watched this one because Kevin Hardwick used to be a Republican. Now he's a Democrat. How is that going to play out in his district? Well, according to the early vote, he has about a 20-point lead over his young challenger there. That's good for the Democrats. The 5th district, this is an open seat right now. Tom Logren not running for re-election. There, the Democrat with a very healthy lead, again, in the early vote. That brings us to the 8th district. This one we thought was maybe going to be kind of contested, but John Brusso, the current county legislator there, with also a healthy lead in the early vote. And then that brings us to Lynn Dixon's seat. This is one that Republicans would really need to hold on to if they want any chance of controlling the county legislature. And there you can see John Gilmore with a healthy lead according to the early vote. So right now, on the early vote wise, guys, you have to say it is a good night for Democrats in the Erie County legislature.
All right, could be a long night though, Michael. Thank you very much for the update there. And right now we have continuous live coverage of Decision 2019 through our 11 o'clock news. That will be over on NBC Channel 2. Of course, we have a live stream that is going on right now, and you can watch it on our website, WGRZ.com, our free mobile app, as well as our Facebook and YouTube pages.
Stay with us. Sports director Anna Bonini is up next with sports. You're watching 2 on your side at 10.
Yeah, they dispatched McKinley down there to sniff around and find out what's going on. Well, after giving up way too much ground, the Bills were able to lock things down in terms of the run defense in the second half against the Redskins on Sunday. Today, they made a move to make sure that happens on a more consistent basis. They signed free agent tackle Corey Legit. He's a former first-round pick of the Chargers back in 2011 and played 3 games for the Raiders this year before being released last week. He'll add some depth to the defensive front, and the move comes after the Bills have allowed 454 rushing yards in the last 3 games, 218 against the Eagles last week and 109 in the first half against the Redskins before they shut things down. And a reminder, Sports Talk Live Buffalo comes your way every Monday night at 7:30 over on Channel 2, a joint effort with the Buffalo News once again this year. We talked about the run defense and a whole lot more last night. If you missed the show, the full audio version is available by podcast. Just search To the Mic. Across the pond, the sun is about to rise on the Sabres' third day over in Sweden. They are in Stockholm this week, getting ready to face the Tampa Bay Lightning as part of the NHL's Global Series. Sabres have 6 Swedish players on the roster. Defenseman Rasmus Dahlin, former top overall pick, of course, is the headliner. They have the day off today, back on the ice tomorrow and Wednesday before facing the Lightning Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern, then Saturday at 1 Eastern before flying home. They're back at KeyBank Center against Carolina a week from Thursday. 5 Section 6 football teams will win sectional titles this weekend at New Era Field. Players heard from, among others, are Dick Gallagher this morning. Orchard Park and Lancaster play for the Double-A title Friday night.
I think it's going to be smash mouth football at Hard Knocks at its finest. I mean, just pounding the ball till the fourth quarter, to the final seconds when the clock hits 0.
Remember, the players had to go back to school today, so after the weather cleared up, some of them went onto the turf at New Era Field. Thanks for watching. 2 on your side at 10. Our Decision 2019 coverage continues on all platforms and certainly at 11 o'clock over on Channel 2. We hope to see you then.
Welcome back to our online coverage of Decision 2019. I am Steve Brown. I'll be with you until the top of the next half hour when we begin Channel 2 News tonight at 11. I'm joined again by political analyst Carl Calabrese and Bruce Fisher. We have journalists keeping a close eye on the big races for both Democratic and Republican parties tonight. We want to start with the Niagara Falls mayor's race because we have a definitive winner, and this was called early. Robert Rustino, the Democrat, is the winner with 50% of the vote in a 4-person race, beating out Republican Glenn Chalokian and 2 minor party candidates. We heard from the incumbent within the past half hour.
Is there any final message you'd want to send to the people who voted for you tonight, or what they can expect from you as mayor?
Well, they can expect honesty, they can expect transparency, and they can expect accountability. And I want to thank them for trusting me with the next 4 years. And I hope that as I work through these problems that we face, that they and I will see a brighter future for Niagara Falls.
This will not be an easy job. There's the vote totals for the Niagara Falls mayor's race. Robert Rustino with 50% of the vote, Glenn Chalokian with 26%, Jeffrey Elder with 17%, Seth Piccirillo, who was in the Democratic primary but lost to Robert Rustino, picking off 7% of the vote. Now let's take a look at the latest numbers in the other big race we're following tonight, this one for Erie County Executive. Now, with about a third of the vote, 34% of the precincts in. Mark Poloncarz has a substantial lead. What we don't have a good idea of is where that vote's coming in. We do believe, we think, we suspect that a lot of that is from the city where turnout was not all that great. If this is where we're at, gentlemen, with this particular race and the suburbs still to be counted, who's optimistic that their candidate won, Lynn or Mark? Start with you, Bruce. Are you feeling it? He's got a lead. Your guy's got a lead. Are you feeling it?
Yeah, baby. 20% turnout in the city, absolutely abysmal. What a failure of institutions. What a failure of engagement. Horrifying.
But what does this mean for Mark? If you've only got 20%,
for Mark is that he, as expected, because the overwhelming majority of electors in the city of Buffalo are registered as Democrats, you would expect that the Democratic incumbent would get their vote. When you get to the suburbs, you're looking at the magic three, as we say. Turnout is about double that, but it's still below 50%. And the suburbs are much more mixed picture. If you win the suburbs with anything, like if he wins half of the suburbs, then he wins running away. He will lose in the exurbs. Those are the low population, Republican, overwhelming majority of folks out there in Evans, where I'm from, and Brant and Alden and such are registered Republicans. So Mark Poloncarz should still win if traditional voting patterns stay, but man, the turnout picture is just depressing.
And the reporting picture is also subpar, and I think I'm being polite at this particular point in time. But Carl, spin me a tale of how it is if we've got low turnout or moderate turnout in the suburbs that Lynn Dixon can overcome this gap and still pick off a victory. How does that happen?
Elections are always about turnout, and if somebody would have said a week ago that the turnout in the city of Buffalo will be 20%, Republicans would have been sky high because it's a winnable race. If there's a 20% turnout in the largest single municipality, Democrat municipality in Erie County, you've got a shot now. And your shot is going to be in winning Lancaster, West Seneca, and Cheektowaga. And those are towns that have voted for Republicans in the past at all levels.
Voted for Trump.
And if the Dixon campaign, studying history and election results from past elections, concentrated on those three towns in the mailbox, door to door, who knows? I mean, you know, it could happen with a 20% turnout in the city.
And we're still waiting for votes to come in. Let's take a look now at the Erie County Legislature. Democratic Erie County Legislator April Baskin looks like she had an easy night holding onto her seat in the 2nd District. Two on your sides, Jackie Roberts spoke with her just moments ago.
Yeah, Steve, there's certainly a lot of energy here at the Statler where the Democratic Party is gathering as those numbers come in. And I'm here with a special interview tonight. April, tell us a little bit about how you're feeling about the way things are going so far.
I'm very confident. I feel like the Democrats are walking tall, and we're going to see a lot of victories tonight.
And how are you feeling as the numbers start to come in, hearing that there was that low voter turnout? I know the Democratic Party tweeted out a couple things saying, you know, you got to get out there, the importance of making sure that people came out and voted today.
Yes, it is, but what we had this year in Erie County and in New York State for the first time was early voting. So I think a lot of our voters took advantage of that new liberty. They got out early within the last 2 weeks. They cast their votes, and I'm confident that they casted their votes with the strong Democrats that currently right now in the legislature have the majority and have been delivering good government for the last 2 years.
There was a lot of talk leading up to this election about the potential that the legislature could lose, or that the Democrats could lose that majority in the legislature. Do you see that as a possibility as we get further into the night?
No, not at all. I think the elected Democrats and the majority caucus is a very, very strong caucus. I think our community stands behind us and believes in the accomplishments that we have achieved within the last 2 years. The likelihood of flipping the legislature just numerically does not seem possible. I'm even confident that we're going to gain a new Democrat after tonight.
And with Democrats in the majority, what do you think you guys have accomplished in the county legislature so far?
Well, I know that we've accomplished much. We've passed a new fair housing law to create equitable housing for more families in Erie County. We passed a strong apprenticeship bill to strengthen our economy. We have our new Correction Specialist Advisory Board, which allows for more citizens' input in our local criminal justice system. We've been doing a lot of great things, and that's just some of it. The conversion therapy ban is something that I'm very proud of as well. I believe that down the road in the next 2 years, we're going to deliver even more great government to the residents of Erie County.
And as we're waiting for the rest of those numbers to come in, you're feeling pretty optimistic, is that fair to say?
I'm beyond optimistic. I know the Democrats are going to keep the majority. Really excited to hold on to our county executive for another 4 years and just keep doing what we need to do for the local taxpayers and residents.
Alrighty, anything else you want to tell us tonight?
Go Democrats.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us. And like I said, a lot of excitement here at the Statler. We will keep you updated as we learn more tonight. For now, back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Jackie. And now for a look at how the rest of the races are going for the Erie County Legislature, let's send it over to Michael Wooten over in the newsroom. Michael?
Yeah, and Steve, I'm going to give that same caveat that we did a little bit earlier, that these numbers are based mostly on the early vote. The Erie County Legislature seats that are really most in contention are in places where we don't have a lot of Election Day vote at this point. So keep that in mind, but this is an early indication of how things are looking. Just to kind of set the stage here, there are 11 seats in the Erie County Legislature, all of them up for grabs today. Currently, Democrats have 7 of them, Republicans controlling 4. But there are really 4 seats that we're keeping an eye on, and Republicans would need to win 3 out of those 4 in order to take control of the legislature. So the first is in the 4th District. Kevin Hardwick, the incumbent, he switched. He was a Republican, now he's a Democrat, and so some people thought maybe that's a race we need to keep an eye on. This is based entirely on the early vote because there is no vote yet in from City and Town of Tonawanda or from Grand Island. But Kevin Hardwick in the early vote winning about 6 out of every 10 votes. So he's obviously feeling good about that. We'll move to the 5th District. This is an open seat right now. Tom Logren not running for re-election. In Amherst, again, based entirely on the early vote. Jean Venal, I mispronounced that earlier, I apologize, with 64% of the vote. Shelley Schratz at 32%. Again, all early vote. Jean Vinal, I apologize. In the 8th District, this is John Brusso's district, Cheektowaga, Lancaster, and Alden. Again, all on the early vote, although literally as I was walking over here, I think we got a little bit of the Lancaster vote, so we'll update that. But again, looking good for the Democrat. And then this is the one that Republicans really need to win. This is Lynn Dixon's seat in the 9th District. It is a traditionally Democrat area, or at least as far as the seats Republicans currently have. This is the one that Democrats maybe had the best chance to pick up. Hamburg, Lackawanna, and South Buffalo. 20% of the Election Day vote is in this district. Other than that, based entirely on the early vote, but John Gilmore with 73%. So again, it is early. This is based mostly on the early vote, but Democrats winning all 4 of what seem to be the contested seats in the Erie County Legislature. Steve?
All right, thank you very much. And all night long, we've been here telling you that the Erie County Board of Elections has been, here's the camera I ought to be talking to. The Erie County Board of Elections has been slow to get results out. We really need to hear from Dave McKinley as to why, and he filed this report.
On its website, the Erie County Board of Elections said that vote results would be posted starting at about 9:15, and that was the plan. And while that is normally the case when we usually start to see votes come in at around that time, we didn't see anything posted until, well, it was going on 10 o'clock. We still didn't see anything posted. So we came down here to the Board of Elections to find out what was going on. We spoke with Elections Commissioner Ralph Moore, and he said there was no problem per se, but he did acknowledge that early votes were going to be posted first and that it took a little bit of time to do that, and said, of course, this is the first experience they've had with the early vote and having to post those totals first. So it did take perhaps a little longer than anticipated, but no real problem in doing so. At the Board of Elections, Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.
All right, so what we know for sure is it's coming in, and it's coming in slowly. We also know that in terms of Erie County's vote, we know that Buffalo's is largely in. We know some has come in from West Seneca, but in a lot of the other places, vote totals have not come in. Congratulations to Niagara County. You got your stuff in early, and the folks up in Niagara Falls know what's going on. So let's talk about that just for a little bit. We know Robert Rustino is going to be the next mayor of the city of Niagara Falls. The news that jumps out at me is the fact that the city council looks like it's going to be controlled by Republicans, which is really amazing because Kenny Tompkins is reelected. When he was elected the first time, he was the only Republican on there. Now it looks like it's 3 because it appears that Tompkins has easily won reelection to his seat. It appears that John Spanbauer has a 23 vote gap between him and Democrat Alicia Kenyon. So minus some sort of tip of 23 votes, a swing of 23 votes from the absentee ballots that have yet to be counted, which are traditionally counted after Election Day, it looks like Republicans will control the city council in the city of Niagara Falls. So, Carl, did you think you were going to live long enough to see Republicans control the city council in the city of Niagara Falls?
This, let me tell you, this is a shocker, but I live in Niagara County, and I go to a lot of events out there, and about a week ago I was at a Republican event and spoke to some people from Niagara Falls involved in the campaigns, and they were very confident they were going to take control. And initially I thought it was bravado, but as they continued to talk and lay out their campaign, they seemed to have a handle on it, and I didn't think it was false optimism and just bravado. They were confident they were going to win control of that city council. Looks like they may have done it. Now, obviously 23 votes is not a lot. It could be changed with absentees, but as we all know, generally speaking, absentee ballots tend to follow the machine vote pretty closely. So this would be a real shocker. This would be a game changer.
Bruce, that says to me that as far as the constituency in Niagara Falls, this was a change election. They wanted some change. Correct? Incorrect? Am I off? Am I on?
The change that they're going to have to deal with is the change they're going to have to seek to try to pay the bills up there, because the tax base is devastated. Their economic development plans haven't worked out. They're still looking at casino revenue, not for development, but for operations. And at some point, somebody's going to be knocking on Governor Cuomo's door at exactly the time that Governor Cuomo himself is cutting back on aid to municipalities. It's going to be a very tough time for Niagara Falls going forward, especially if we slip into a recession.
And Carl, this says to me, for the Republicans, if this is a change election, that perhaps patience has worn out amongst the electorate in the city, and that if the Republicans are going to lead here, they're going to have to lead boldly, quickly, and obviously, or else they might find themselves in the minority again.
That would be the advice I would give them. Be bold. Go for big change and show folks that you're willing to make those moves. Otherwise, it's going to be the same old, same old. As my business partner and former mayor of the city of Buffalo, Tony Masiello, says, in today's day and age, you don't own votes anymore, you lease them. People are very, very quick to change allegiance when it comes to elections. So that would be my advice to Republicans up there. Be bold.
And it's a short-term lease on top of that.
Very short-term.
We have some other results that we want to get to right away. As a reminder, we have results from rolling in from a bunch of different places. Let's take a look at this one, because this one is of interest. In the 57th State Senate District, this is one that Chris Jacobs essentially vacated in order to be able to run for Congress. It looks like George Borrello is well out in front in regards to his contest against Austin Morgan. This was thought to be a toss-up district, and we now have the Grand Island supervisor race. We have some of the vote in. This looks like it's all early vote. So it's John Whitney and James Sharp. Again, all we have is early vote in, which is very instructive as to how the county executive race totals are coming in. We have West Seneca also to take a look at. Some vote totals in from West Seneca with 44%. It looks like Gary Dixon has a fairly substantial lead over James Lawson. Dixon, the Republican, in front with about 44% of the vote totals coming in. That suggests to me, gentlemen, that we've got some suburban vote in as far as the county executive race in, but it's kind of sporadic. We know we're getting some from West Seneca. We know that we're getting some from some of the suburbs, but not in places where we were
West
looking
Seneca
for.
is a key town. West Seneca is a key town if you're a Republican, and we've got a Republican taking a seat that has been held by the Democrat Party for quite some time as supervisor of West Seneca. So that's interesting.
And we also have Cheektowaga that's in play. Lancaster we haven't heard from. Lackawanna, although we've heard, source reporting that you've gotten, we haven't gotten numbers from them. So it seems to me like there's an awful lot of the vote that's out there yet.
Oh, there's a ton of vote out there. I've really never seen a situation like this where here we are going on 11 p.m. and we still are in the dark, really. This is unbelievable.
Bruce, some of this has to obviously have to do with the early voting, because they had to set up different structures. They had to set up different locations in order to be able to accommodate the early vote.
They should have had this done at all.
And you're cutting them no slack whatsoever.
Absolutely not. I mean, this is not difficult. I mean, it's not like we're running a country here.
If they can do it in Chautauqua County, if they can do it in Cattaraugus County, if they can do it in
Niagara County, for goodness sake.
Right.
Please. I mean, and we used to do it with, Remember, how did we get to the moon? With slide rules and pencils, okay? So early voting, I think, ended early. Is that the word we use?
It is.
It is, okay. And so we started again with a new round today? Yeah, so the early stuff should have been in hand yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? I don't understand this.
In terms of, you've sat in rooms with folks waiting for vote totals to come in. When something like this happens, when there is a delay, how does that affect how a candidate behaves?
I think that the issue, we'll get over the logistical issue here in a couple of minutes. The question is, why is disengagement such a terrible reality? Why is 20% turnout in the city? Why did the party chairman, both Republican and Democrat, decide not to have contested votes, not to have contested races in the biggest municipality in Erie County? Why do we have sporadic turnout in Amherst and some competitive races in West Seneca here and there? We don't have a general engagement election going on. Look, this county-wide government is important, but so is each legislative seat. And each legislative seat should have brought people out because there should be turmoil, there should be conversation. There isn't. It's
Carl,
terrible.
minus the condition of county roads, do people feel county government, particularly in the suburbs where we're not hearing from yet?
Well, I can remember a suburban legislator telling me that, when he looked at county government and his district, that his residents really got 3 services out of county government: libraries, parks, and roads. And that was his major concern in the budget and in administering the budget throughout the year. And that's probably true of most suburbs, is those are the 3 big things you get out of county government. And there's no controversy around those this year, really. I mean, we argue about roads every 4 years. It's kind of a perennial debate. People discount it. Unless you've got a major scandal with, let's say, a road repair company, involved in graft and corruption. I think, it's just not the hook that you need to topple an incumbent.
But I can tell you that if a road is bad, we get calls to the newsroom all the time.
Oh, of course.
All the time.
Because all 25 people who live in that far rural road, far-flung suburban road, are keen to get on it. Look, the county government is the state's sort of branch office here for environment, for economic development. It is a big deal. We're in a big administrative center, in the 2nd largest concentration of people in a huge state. So county government matters. We have our own Air Force. We have our own Navy. We have Sheriff's Patrol. We have our own cavalry here with the sheriff's horses. Look, county government really matters. The question we have as a community is county government not relevant? Is it really just the libraries which sort of run by themselves? Is it really just a couple of hundred people dealing with a jail? There are a lot of issues that are hitting because of county government. The question is, why are people not aware of its relevance to their lives?
Got an answer for that, Carl?
As I said earlier, I think it's a nationwide system problem of people disengaging civically, of pulling back from interaction with people at churches, at community service clubs and organizations, in politics. We've seen this coming for a long time in politics. In the old days, you had a district committee person, and the idea was they would go door to door, and they would go to their neighbors, and they would hand out literature, and they would talk about
that grassroots network.
Exactly, but those days are over. People don't know their neighbors anymore.
But isn't that the reason why you need to have those networks more than ever?
You've got them now, but they're virtual networks.
People have
they're electronic
these now.
Yes, that's what has been replaced by, and I don't think the party apparatus has really caught up with that. They're still holding on to this kind of Norman Rockwell, my committee people will go door to door and talk to their neighbors. Those days are over. But let me go back to a question or an issue you raised a little earlier about what is this like for a candidate? The fact that we're at 11 o'clock and we still don't know. Let me tell you, having been a candidate 8 or 9 times, there is no longer day in your life than election day.
Right.
It starts real early. All of those signs you see at the polling places when you go to vote, those go up around 5 o'clock in the morning. And so you're usually there to meet the volunteers who are going to put those signs up at 5 o'clock.
Them.
And then most organizations will have a breakfast for those volunteers. So you're at the breakfast.
Yes, and
then you go to the polling places and you stand out front, you shake hands and you move around. Then you go to headquarters and you talk and then you come to election night and you're anxiously awaiting 9:30 or so to know what your fate is after having spent probably the good part of a year investing all of your emotional and psychic and physical and financial energy into this thing called a campaign. And now here we are at 11 o'clock at night and you still don't know. I mean, that's almost cruel.
Because once 9 o'clock rolls around, there's nothing you can do. You can't influence another vote going forward. All there is to wait.
And the great frustration these days, because people are so distracted or so stressed, that, and I track the income numbers. I track how many people file how many tax returns for how many dollars around here. We got half of the people in Erie County who file tax returns are reporting less than $30,000 in household income. Wow, half the folks here they're not thinking about who's pretty, they're thinking about
tomorrow,
who's going to help,
how to pay the bill,
exactly,
how to buy groceries,
how to get to the store, wow.
Yep, big issue.
Still disengaged.
But in terms of the Erie County executive race, the marquee race of the night, we have about 53% of the precincts in. It looks like it's almost an 18,000 vote gap for Mark Poloncarz. We don't know exactly the distribution of those votes, but it looks like he has a substantial lead with over half of the precincts reporting. Up in Niagara Falls, again, Robert Restaino, the winner up there, the Democrat, capturing 50% of the vote in his bid to become the next mayor of Niagara Falls. He will take office in January. He will have a substantial job on his hands. 1 minute final thoughts. If we're going to engage people better to vote while we're waiting for votes to come in, how do we go about doing that? Quick answers.
Well, I think you've got to speak to what's important to them and give them solutions that make sense to them, that are actually workable and doable. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, and you're going to continue to see what we're seeing.
If everybody on the interwebs is on a daily basis talking about healthcare and talking about climate change and talking about energy and talking about flooding, probably key to have candidates talk about those issues. We, in the county executives race, sadly, mainly heard about photoshopping. I mean, and
roads,
yeah,
and some tax talk, but not a lot about. Points well made. That not a lot of talk about what the future should look like, and I think that's a factor. Gentlemen, I got to wrap because we've got a newscast coming up. Thank you very much. Channel 2 News at 11 is coming up.
Yeah, it's going to get a lot tighter, I think, yeah.
One, two, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2.
Claudine's mic, she's making her way to the podium.
If you had told me a month ago that you're going to have a 20% turnout in the city of Buffalo, I would have said this is a winnable race.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear me?
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Sorry, Sarah, it's loading. Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3. Mic check.
Mic check for Kelly. Claudine, we're at the Avant in downtown Buffalo, where GOP members are still waiting for results to come in. So far, we've
Channel 2 is your station for all your Decision 2019 results tonight, and we have got a lot to get to in the next 30 minutes.
And let's get right to the big race of the night for Erie County Executive, where incumbent Mark Poloncarz is leading challenger Lynn Dixon. We have team coverage on this race, starting with Two on Your Side's Claudine Ewing, who is live for us tonight from Democratic headquarters in downtown Buffalo. Claudine?
Scott and Mary Alice, as you can hear from the noise behind me and the music, there is a lot of celebration here. However, everybody here is waiting for the big one, the Erie County Executive winner. Who will it be? Of course, the people here are thinking, based on the numbers so far, that it will be Mark Poloncarz, but there's no sign of him here just yet. We heard from Mayor Brown earlier tonight, and he said that Mark Poloncarz will be here. They're very optimistic. As we know, he is the incumbent, but so far he appears to be ready for a third term based on the numbers, but nothing has been decided just as of yet. When he does take the stage, you will hear it live right here on Channel 2. Right now, we'll go to the Republican headquarters. Kelly Dudzik is there live. Hi, Kelly.
Claudine, we're here at the Avant where legislator Ed Rath is giving his victory speech right now. We've also heard from a judge who won, but so far we have not heard from or seen Lynn Dixon. She's been an Erie County legislator now for about 10 years, first elected in 2009 and represents parts of South Buffalo and some of Buffalo's suburbs. But so far we have not seen her, we have not heard from her. We haven't even gotten an update here on the county executive's race, which is being watched very closely. For now, live in downtown Buffalo, Kelly Dudzik, Channel 2 News.
All right, Kelly, Claudine, thank you. Another race that we did want to mention is the state Senate race in the 57th district, representing the Southern Tier. Republican candidate George Borrello is being declared the winner, beating Democrat Austin Morgan. As you see there, 72-28.
Another big race that we're following tonight is in the Erie County Legislature, with all of the seats there up for grabs.
Right now, let's head over to the Information Center where Two on Your Side's Michael Wooten is standing by with the latest there. Michael, what's happening?
Hey, Scott and Mary Alice. So before we get to the county legislature, we want to let you know our Dave McKinley is at the Board of Elections, and there have been so many questions tonight about why the results have taken so long to come in. We know they changed some processes. They're having to drive equipment to the Board of Elections and then put them into the system, and so that's why we still aren't able to call a lot of these races. But Dave was told a short time ago that the final chips for the night are now being brought to the Board of Elections. They're going to be put into those machines and tallied, and so we believe that we will have a lot more numbers and get close to having final tallies sometime soon. Stay tuned for that, obviously. Let's talk about the Erie County Legislature. There are 11 seats, all of them up for grabs. Right now, Democrats have control of 7 of the seats compared to 4 for Republicans, but there are really 4 seats that are going to determine who will control the legislature moving forward, and we'll focus in on those right now. These numbers have changed a lot. If you were with us online about 20-30 minutes ago, this looked very well, like it was going very well for Democrats. The races have tightened up quite a bit as we wait for those final tallies. First to the 4th district, Kevin Hardwick used to be a Republican. Now he's a Democrat, so we're watching this to see how that's going to play out. He has right now less than a 5-point lead over his 23-year-old Republican challenger. This is a seat Democrats obviously would like to keep control of. The 5th district, this was an open seat, and right now the Democrat with about a 10-point lead. This has been in the Democrats' control for quite a while, so they want to hold on to that one. We'll move now to the 8th district. John Brusso is currently the incumbent in that seat. Look at this. 49.4% to 50.6%. That's with about half of the election day vote plus all of the early votes. So this one is going to be extremely close. That brings us to the 4th. This is the seat that's currently held by Lynn Dixon. She's giving that up to run for county executive. And look, this is going to be a flip, it seems. The Democrat, John Gilmore, with 60% of the vote, the Republican only 40%. That's 76% of the election day vote in. This is a race that we might be able to call here pretty soon. Republicans need to win 3 of these 4 seats. If they lose this one, they'll have to sweep all the rest of them in order to take control of the Erie County Legislature. Still votes to count. We'll continue to monitor all 4 of these races and let you know what happens and the numbers that we get in shortly. Guys?
All right, Michael, thank you very much. Well, standing by with more analysis on this race and more is Two on Your Side, Steve Brown, who is joined by some sage guests tonight. Hey, Steve.
Thank you very much, Scott. Bruce Fisher and Carl Calabrese. Let's talk about the Erie County Executives race. As we were going through the numbers for the legislature races on the lower thirds, it appears that a lot of the places that have got vote in, City of Buffalo, strongly Democrat, probably leaning Mark Poloncarz, the Lynn Dixon's old seat, strongly Democrat, probably leaning Mark Poloncarz, and then some of the West Seneca vote. But a lot of the rest of it isn't in. Over half of it's still out from Grand Island and the city of Tonawanda. Haven't seen a heck of a lot more, still half of it out up in Amherst. So we've got a lot of vote which could go a Republican candidate's way here. How do we see the rest of this coming in? It's over?
Yeah.
It's done?
Lynn Dixon would have to win substantially all the vote in those smaller places and in the suburbs that are traditionally much more split. So if Poloncarz is ahead with 75% of the vote in, if he's ahead more than 10 points, he is going to win by 6 or 7 percentage points, I think, at this point.
Carl, you concur?
Not yet. You know, it ain't over till it's over. Let me tell you, if someone would have told us a week ago that you were going to have a 20% turnout in the city of Buffalo, I would have said this is a winnable race for Lynn Dixon.
I agree.
With that kind of turnout. Yeah. I just wish her campaign would have been more future-oriented and more economic development-oriented. And have that kind of vision of what we need to do going forward to really jumpstart the economy here like other cities in the Northeast and Rust Belt have done and are enjoying 10 and 12% growth rates compared to our 2 or 3%. That would have been an interesting conversation to have and might have been a path to victory.
Bruce, if there's a third term for Mark Poloncarz and you think there's going to be, what do we see? Do we get more of the same or do we see something different third term?
I think that Mark Poloncarz is a stable and competent manager who has a reputation for stability and competence. And frankly, he's not an adventurer. I think that you're probably going to see some interesting debate over some of the big infrastructure projects, convention center, Bill Stadium and such like, none of which make any economic sense whatsoever, by the way. I hope that we start hearing about energy. I hope that we start hearing about population loss. And where are the dollars in the pockets of the working and middle class people from the Buffalo Renaissance? Where are they?
Does there need to be a conversation about economic development, about poverty in Erie County that Republicans can win at?
Absolutely. And again, the model is out there. The research has been done. There's other cities like Grand Rapids that has just as much snow as Buffalo is having 10 and 12% growth rates. They're doing it with a different economic philosophy than what we follow here. And they're attracting millennials and talent, and that's where businesses go, is where the talent goes. And there's ways to do it. We're not doing it. That would have been a great discussion, and it could be in the future for Republican candidates at all levels of government, especially at the county level.
Talent will not come for $1 billion bunch of buildings. Maybe if we fix the internet around here, maybe if we made startups more possible around here, maybe instead of loading the pockets of developers, we made housing affordable for millennials. How about that?
That's what they're doing in Grand Rapids. They incentivize housing for millennials.
And maybe we should go take a visit.
We don't do that.
Gentlemen, we're out of time, but thank you so very much, Scott and Mary Ellis. Back to you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. The other big race is the race for Niagara Falls mayor, where Democratic candidate Robert Rustino is the projected winner tonight, beating 3 other candidates for the mayor of Niagara Falls.
I am focused on the fact that our city right now faces a structural deficit, and until and unless we can fix that, all of the other ills just become more difficult to attack. So I suppose my first order of business will be to take a look at whatever budget I'm handed by the end of this year, and then see what we can do to start working with some of the ideas that I brought throughout the campaign.
Once again, that was Robert Rustino. He will become the next mayor of Niagara Falls after Paul Deister announced that he would not be running for re-election.
And our coverage of Decision 2019 is far from over. You can find the results of every single local race at the bottom of your screen on WGRZ.com or on the 2 on Your Side app, which you can download for free right now.
Straight ahead here at 11, the latest on that bizarre arrest of a former DEA agent right here in Buffalo and what he's accused of doing. Heather?
Well, Scott, not the most inspiring of weather on Election Day. A lot of clouds, a little bit of rain in the morning. Some of us looking at a mix of rain and snow showers just to the south of the city at the moment. But all of us will get some accumulating snowfall on Thursday. I'll time it all out for you and show you how much we could get with the 7-day forecast in a few minutes. Not a whole lot of rain today at the airport, just shy of 1/4 of an inch, but there was just enough dampness in the air to keep it feeling raw pretty much all day.
We are back with more results in Decision 2019, and we want to start with the race of the night for Erie County Executive, where incumbent Mark Poloncarz is leading challenger Lynn Dixon. Right now, 81% of the precincts are reporting, and Lynn Dixon is starting to gain a little bit, 46% to Mark Poloncarz, 54%. And if you were wondering why it is taking so long to get the results, we found out tonight that early voting had a lot to do with it.
It got down near 10 o'clock. We didn't see anything. Yeah. Was there a problem?
No, this is the first time we've ever uploaded early voting. It's the first year for early voting. It took a few minutes extra, but we got it up there. And this year we were starting, instead of calling in the numbers from the inspectors all over the county, calling them in, getting them written down, we're actually going to bring the chips directly here and upload the chips.
Interesting. Once again, we have every local election result available for you right there at the bottom on your screen there on our website and our free mobile app.
Well, in other news, Amherst police are investigating a threatening photo which was sent to several students through Snapchat at Sweet Home High School. The photo showed a man with a gun strapped on his back saying, "Don't come to school on the 6th." Now, police do not believe there is any credible threat. However, extra precautions will be taken throughout the school day tomorrow. Well, a retired DEA agent is now accused of protecting drug dealers and taking bribes instead of helping to clean up our streets.
Now, the indictment against that retired officer, Joseph Bongiovanni of Tonawanda, also says that he helped shield members of organized crime. Here's 2 on your side's Dave McKinley.
55-year-old Bongiovanni retired in February after a more than 20-year career as a special agent with the Drug Enforcement Administration. But for about the last half of it, according to prosecutors, he was on the take, accepting $250,000 in bribes from drug dealers, described in the indictment as associates and characterized this way.
Individuals that Mr. Bongiovanni believed were part of, associated with, Italian organized crime.
Kennedy never used the term mafia and refused to further describe any potential activity or strength of any Italian organized crime faction in Western New York.
I'm not going to sort of embellish upon what's in the indictment.
Even when pressed by 2 on your side photojournalist Dave Harrington.
I know you go back to the indictment, but I really think that that deserves more of an answer than that.
I'm sorry if that's not satisfactory, but I'm limited to the allegations contained in the indictment at this time.
An indictment that not only accuses Bongiovanni of tipping his associates to DEA investigations and informants, but interfering with the investigations of other police agencies of which they might be a target. It alleges that when he got wind of one, he would tell those other agencies he was already conducting an investigation, that they should back off and, oh, by the way, share any information they had gathered with him, all in an effort to ensure no other law enforcement agencies successfully investigated those under defendant Bongiovanni's protection. Meanwhile, talk of Italian organized crime actually caused Bongiovanni's lawyer to scoff.
It's thrown in because it catches a lot of attention and conjures up a lot of visions, but, you know, there's no basis for it.
Bongiovanni is also charged with dealing drugs and obstructing justice for allegedly lying to investigators when they questioned him this past summer, as a grand jury was already hearing evidence against him. Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.
Dave, thank you. It was nearly 10 days ago when a Maserati crashed into a Toyota on Seneca Street here in South Buffalo. AJ 25 the third and 32-year-old Kristen LeBruno, who were in the Toyota, both died. Since then, we have been hearing from quite a few people wondering why the driver of the Maserati still remains unnamed to this day and has not been charged. Earlier today, 2 on your side's Emily Lampa had some tough questions for the Buffalo Police Department.
They're seeing that this guy drove a Maserati. They're thinking, oh, this guy must have some money, or that, you know, in some way he might be having some influence over this case. Is that what's happening here?
Absolutely not. First off, the kind of car somebody drives has got nothing to do with anything. Actually, my understanding is it was a 2008 Maserati, so you're talking about an 11-year-old car at this point. Secondly, we're not releasing the person's name because they haven't been charged with the crime. If, as a result of the investigation, it turns out that there was no crime committed, how's that fair to anybody?
And if you'd like to see it, we have Emily's full interview with Captain Ronaldo. It's up on our website right now at WGRZ.com.
Today, Governor Cuomo signed a new bill requiring that death certificates specify if someone died from an opioid overdose. Cuomo says the new law, which takes effect immediately, requires that information be recorded so that more data will be available to better address the opioid crisis.
All right, well, Heather Waldman is over at the weather maps. We had a pretty decent day today for Election Day to get out to the polls.
Yeah, we had a few breaks of sunshine, Heather, but it's going to feel more like winter in the coming days.
I was going to say, by early November standards, today wasn't bad, and by the standards of what's coming, yeah, it was pretty darn good. Here's the 5-day forecast. Tomorrow's just a little bit cooler, and unlike today, we're going to start off with some sunshine, then the clouds increase, then we get a few showers late afternoon into the evening, but things don't really start to get interesting until late Wednesday night into Thursday morning. That's when we see the widespread light, cold rain change over to a period of some wet snow. It is going to accumulate, I think, everywhere in western New York, but exactly how much, we're still working out some of those details. And then look at this. Friday's high 32, 38 on Saturday, maybe a stray snow shower, but I think the first half of the weekend overall is dry. It'll get breezy, and we'll be ready for some more wintry precipitation come Sunday. Speaking of, little band of lake effect snow set up here just a few hours ago. Report of some snow starting at around 7 o'clock in the Bennington area. That's right on the Erie-Wyoming County line. Temperatures are still in the upper 30s at this point, so the snow isn't readily accumulating in these areas, but I would not be surprised if parts of the 219 are a little bit slippery. Same thing goes with anything along the Erie County, Cattaraugus County line. So just be careful tonight into tomorrow morning. That band should be shutting down here within the next few hours. And again, tomorrow we're starting off nice and quiet. Wide view of the satellite and radar shows that pretty much all of the lakes have come alive here with a little bit of a westerly wind, some cooler air coming in over those relatively warmer lakes as well. Future look shows, again, those bands kind of shutting down late tonight. By tomorrow afternoon, we're still quiet in central and western New York, but watch what happens here late Wednesday night into early Thursday. Next system starts to move in. This one's going to have a lot more moisture with it than the one that moved through today. We got about 1/4 inch of rain today. Next system that comes in Wednesday night into Thursday, watch how this fills in, especially Thursday morning. Quick changeover from some cold rain over to snow. I think temperatures will be close to 40 degrees on Thursday morning. They'll drop slightly throughout the day. It'll probably be in the upper 30s most of the morning. That is cold enough for snow to fall. not necessarily cold enough for it to stick, at least not very quickly, certainly not in the lower elevations. But as we get colder through the second half of the day, that's where we have a chance for some of that snow to accumulate. And then Thursday night into Friday, that's where we start to tap into some isolated lake effect showers. The bigger story on Friday, though, is going to be the cold. Let's time it out for you a little bit closer. The numbers you see there are the temperatures at the time. Like I said, overnight Wednesday into Thursday, upper 30s, low 40s. Mild enough for a chilly rain, but look what happens here early Thursday morning. This is 7 a.m. Heads up for the morning commute. There will be some wet snow falling around Buffalo, areas to the north. Temperatures will be in the mid to upper 30s as we go through the morning, but dropping as we get to the midpoint of the day and into the afternoon. Very close to, if not just below the freezing mark. That's where we'll get some of the accumulation. Best chance to get shovelable snow, and I know shovelable is technically not a real word, but it's fun to say. We'll get a few inches in the interior southern tier, basically anywhere south of the thruway and just inland from the lake. Those higher elevations in particular, 2 to 5 inches. The city of Buffalo, probably up to an inch. Some spots, locally a little bit more. Up towards the falls, up to an inch as well. Same thing goes for some of the lower elevations of the southern tiers. This is not a big deal for us. The reason it's worth mentioning, of course, it's the first accumulating snowfall for us in the Buffalo metro area itself. There will be some slick spots. There will be some troubles on the roads, I'm sure. Thursday, temperatures in the upper 30s throughout the day, very quickly dropping into the 20s then Thursday night. Very cold on Friday, the high close to freezing. Even colder early next week. I think we got a potential for a few records. And it's not just those couple of days either. Be ready for some colder than average weather through the middle part of November. Check out the 7-day forecast here. Mix of rain and snow showers Sunday, lake effect on Monday. We're back with more Channel 2 News tonight in just a bit.
Key spot, same thing.
All right, we do have some breaking news to report tonight in the race for Erie County Executive. Incumbent Mark Poloncarz has been declared the winner of the race for Erie County Executive, beating challenger Lynn Dixon to serve his third term in office. Let's go back out right now to 2 on your side's Claudine Ewing, who is live at Democratic headquarters. Claudine?
To the podium right now. Mark Poloncarz has just taken the stage. We'll let you listen to a part of the speech right now.
Have spoken on the direction they want their community to go. Thank you to all who believed in our message of moving Erie County forward. Because of your belief in our work and the direction we are taking this county, we've been sent back to complete the job we've started. Thank you to all who've given us the opportunity to serve. There are many, many people who I have to thank for tonight's result. He can't be here, but the Chairman Zellner and his team at the Erie County Democratic Committee, thank you for your continued support and your efforts to create the best Erie County we can be. Our party, the party of the people, is strong and set the stage for what will certainly be an exciting 2020. And I hear we won that legislature again. To our partners in government, of course, Governor Andrew Cuomo, our great Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, Congressman Higgins, our Western New York delegation in Albany, including Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes, and Senator Tim Kennedy, of course, Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown, and of course we sent him back today, Council President Darius Pridgen. To my partners in the Erie County Legislature in my hometown of Lackawanna and in the town and village governments all across our great community, thank you for what you've done for me. Tonight, we showed what Democrats can do when we are united. Of course, my deep thanks are also extended to our friends in labor. Are there anybody in labor from here? I want to thank Richard Lipsitz and the entire Western New York Area Labor Federation, Paul Brown and the Buffalo Buildings Trades, and all the other ones. Due to your united effort and strength, you brought plenty of work to this campaign, and we are better for it, and our community is better for it. Thank you very much. And of course, to my great team in and out of government, Deputy County Executive Maria White, my Chief of Staff, Jennifer Hibbett, our Policy Director, Benjamin Swanekamp, our Field Marshal, my Press Secretary, Peter Anderson, and so many others who've worked tirelessly during our administration and over these last few months to get us where we are today. Thank you for your efforts and for your unfailing friendship. While I may be the face of our team, it is only because of our team that we can be successful at the polls and in government. Thank you, each and every one of you, for what you have done for me and for the people of Erie County. Thank you. I also want to give a big shout out to our campaign coordinator, David Bojanowski, and the Army. Yes, David and the army of volunteers that he mustered, who knocked on doors all over the place. Angela Marinucci, who helped us write thousands of postcards. Jane Cameron, who got those people to sign those postcards. And so many others who worked across all of our county. And to the strongest political organization in Buffalo, Champ Eve and his Unity Coalition, for delivering once again. Each and every one of you is part of this team. Each and every one of you is the reason for this victory. And to my family, my parents, Charles and Janice, who are here. Thank you, Mom and Dad. My brothers, Rob and Kevin. Of course, Rob is here with his wife, Lynn. And my two nephews, Ryan and Zachary. My brother, Kevin, can't be here. And all others who've been with me through the years, a big thank you for all that you've done. And of course, to Heather, my much better half, and her beautiful daughter, Nadia, who couldn't be here. It's way past her bedtime. Thank you for all your support, especially during this past year. This year was not an easy one, but I thank you for all that you did for me, put up with me, and constantly being someplace else than other with you. I love you. And to the people of Erie County, the men and women who've given me the honor to serve as your executive, thank you once again for placing your confidence in me and my team going forward. By giving me the privilege to serve as your executive once again, you agree with the direction we are taking our community, a direction where in this great renaissance, we will leave no person behind by implementing a set of policies based on progressive values. As I've said it before, we have only just begun, and the best is yet to come. I believe that for decades we looked outside our area for a silver bullet to save us. But in the end, we didn't need the Lone Ranger coming in on his horse with a silver bullet to save us, because we were that silver bullet. It was us. We are the new Erie County. During the past 8 years, we have accomplished much, but there's more to do. We have made tremendous progress in economic development, job creation, arts enrichment, strengthening our parks and libraries, providing for seniors, investing in our infrastructure, and protecting our environment. But there is more to do, and Erie County will lead the way forward. You see, I believe government, when run well, can be a force of good for all. At its core, government is a representation of all its people, not just taxpayers or the most vocal among us. Government does not exist just to pave a road, as some would seem to believe, but to protect a child from an abusive adult, to provide daycare to working parents so that they can better their lives, to provide a hot meal to a senior who might not otherwise have one, and for so many other reasons that create a better community for all. It should be aspirational in nature, a manifestation of our better angels, always striving to the goal of strengthening the lives of everyone. Today, I believe the people of Erie County affirm that principle and rejected those who would divide us and take us backwards. As we move forward from tonight, we cannot rest on our laurels. There is more to do to build the best Erie County it can be. We must bring high-speed broadband to all of Erie County, and we will do that through ErieNet. We must address the health disparities that exist in our community, giving everyone the chance to live their best lives, and we will do that through Live Well Erie. We must continue to grow our economy so that everyone benefits from this new Buffalo, the new Erie County, and we will do that through the continued implementation of initiatives for a smart economy. Now, we must work together no matter our political affiliations to create the best community we can be. And we will, because that's what we do in Buffalo. We roll up our sleeves, we dig in, and we work hard. Thank you for providing me the privilege to once again serve as the captain of our community's team. It is a responsibility I take seriously, and I won't let you down. Thank you to each and every one of you who supported me from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. The best is yet to come, folks. Thank you, and may God bless Erie County and the United States of America. Thank you, everyone.
I want to thank my girlfriend, Lindsay Bracek, and our staff, Arthur Massara, Kat Schmieder, Forrest Wynn, and Emily Powery, for all of the work that they've done to get us reelected. But I'm not the big story of the night. The big story of the night is that the voters in the 8th legislative district realized that they had a tax and spend liberal who cared more about following the county executive's orders than the priorities of the Erie County taxpayer. It is my pleasure and honor to congratulate and welcome Frank Todaro into our legislative caucus. Congratulations, Frank Todaro. I cannot wait to work with this man. He is a business owner, a taxpayer, and a hard worker who is going to help me take it to the county executive and represent our taxpayers to the best of our ability. Frank, congratulations. I can't wait to work with you.
Thank you. Before Frank gets up here and talks to you, you know, we're all a team here. And granted, Frank worked his butt off. He knocked down a lot of doors. We spent a lot of money on mailings. Frank's going to do a great job at the legislature. But we've got a team downtown, headquarters, Jesse, Aaron, and Ray Walter. They busted their butts to get this guy elected. So I want to thank you guys. A lot of hard work. And now your new Erie County legislator, Frank Todaro.
I'm going to start by saying thank you. I'm just in euphoric mode right now, and this is just amazing. The people on this stage have done such an excellent job, kept me on track, explained exactly what I needed to do, and here I am today because of these people behind me. I want to say that what's going on in my town of Lancaster is not what I expected. As a business owner downtown with 30 employees, I just saw things just falling apart, and I decided, I told my wife, I go, I need to do something about this. After a week of deliberations, I won that one. And she supports me, Cecile, my wife. After that green light, I went full steam ahead, sat with Nick Laneworthy, and explained everything to him, what I wanted to do. And he supported me to do it, and he put this excellent team together with Jesse, my director, his lovely wife. Here, thank you. We have Ray Walter. And we have Carl Simith, took the reins over, doing an excellent job. I appreciate the endorsement from Mr. Ralph Larigo from the Erie County Conservative Committee. Thank you. And all my beautiful children that are here. I really appreciate it. I mean, there's so many people to thank. My mother, Frances, my father-in-law, Tom. My sisters are here with us today. My brother-in-law, Charlie. I didn't forget you, buddy. And all the volunteers. A lot of sneakers have gone through rubber on the road with the tires. It's a lot of potholes we hit too along the way. So I'm going to say the voices of the 8th District have spoken with volume, and I'm going to make sure it's heard. So there's a lot of new ropes for me to learn, but I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to do a darn good job for everybody. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, buddy. You did it. That's it. You okay? That's good. That's very good.
Where's she? Ah.
Where's Jesse? Lucas?
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, folks, this is going to be hard for me because this is the first time I've had to do this, and I'm not.
But it'll be the last.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm at a loss for words, but like I was telling all the TV reporters and the press before we started the festivities this morning, or this afternoon, this evening, Jesus. I told them, I says, Lynn's worked hard for 9 months. She's pounded the pavement. She's worked hard. She's been in 3 places every day for the past 9 months. She's put her life on hold for all of us in this room and for the taxpayers of Erie County. She worked hard. A lot of money was spent. But it is what it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, Lynn Dixon.
Thank you. Thank you. See, this is what happens with early voting. You're stuck staying later and later and later. There's nothing early about it. So, first, let me just say thank you so much for all of you who are here tonight, for everything that you've done for me for the past 9 months. It has been so humbling. There's so many of you that came into headquarters to make phone calls, so many that contributed to me financially, so many that just passed out things, and that you've been there for me. You were driving me around. Matt Poole, I learned after the fact that he would go to get his car cleaned before he would drive me around. And I was going to say, Matt, you don't need to worry. You haven't seen my car. So anyway, when I first sat down to talk about this more than 9 months ago, I was told my odds were 65-35, 35% chance of winning. Now, normally people would walk away from that, and but I said, I think that that's doable. So, I have always believed in public service for what it is, and that's public service. And I meant what I said 9 months ago when I got into this, and I mean it today, that public service should not be about political victories. It should be about the people and you. It should be about you. And, I've been enriched. My life has been enriched by all the lives that I've touched, that have touched my life over the course of the last, not only 9 months, but really my last 10 years in public service. But I can't tell you that I am a very rich woman, because I look around here. I have 3 of my kids. This is Caroline, Aaron, and My son Jack is away at school at Michigan State. I have my sister Lori and her husband Jim, my brother Bob. I have my sister-in-law Kim. I have my sister Nancy and her husband Dave. And I have my nieces and nephews that are here with me today. I am a wealthy woman. From the very beginning, I said I was doing this for them, for what my parents taught me. You know, my dad didn't come from much. He was one of the youngest of 10 kids, grew up in South Buffalo. His dad worked in the grain elevators. His mom cleaned floors overnight at Timon. He went off to World War II. He came back with the GI Bill. At the age of 19, bought his parents the first house they ever owned. It was a double in South Buffalo, and he told them, keep the rental income from the other property. And he and my mom continued to give and love and give us love and give us the knowledge that we would be able to grow up, be strong, and be whatever we wanted to be. They gave us the confidence that we could do that. I never wanted to make my gender an issue in this race because I didn't want anyone to vote for me just because I was a woman. But I wanted them to vote for me because I was the best candidate for the job who just so happened to be a woman. But I would say to those women out there considering public service, and maybe you're looking around and you have a family and you're balancing work and your family and meals on the table and laundry and everything else, and yes, I have that to do tomorrow. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you're not strong enough or tough enough, that you don't know enough or have enough. Trust that the strength of your character and your conviction is enough, and that you are enough. I want to congratulate Mark Poloncarz for another term. I would encourage him, and I will continue to watch closely, that we put the people first and that we listen to the county workforce that has ideas on ways to do things better, to respect the county workforce, to respect the business community, to listen to them, to understand that other people have good ideas and great things that can help move this community forward. I don't know what the next chapter holds for me. I know I have a budget that we have to look to amend and work on over the course of the next several weeks, and I will be doing that. I also want to thank, while we're here, I want to thank Chairman Ralph Larigo for the conservative endorsement and for your wonderful support, and Carl Simith and Nick Langworthy, and really, again, all of you, I could go on all night, obviously, and I know you really don't want to but you really have done, I really can't express enough what all you have done means to me. Mike, that I went to college with, just showed up at headquarters one day and started making phone calls. He's been the regular ever since. Dan, everything that you've done with the signs and with everything. I'm looking at these young guys here. I mean, they're amazing. You are our future, and thank God for you. You guys are great. There's a 98-year-old woman that called headquarters last week, and she said she wanted to go help put up signs. There's an 89-year-old man that sent me from Amherst who sent me a donation, and it was wrapped in the newspaper article about the Photoshop. And there was another gentleman from Lackawanna who showed up at headquarters, and he said, I wanted to help you, and I couldn't figure out how to get a hold of you, so I opened up the phone book. Yes, they still have those. And he said, I couldn't figure out how to get there, so he goes, so luckily my daughter came and she pulled out that phone and she looked it up and she found where your headquarters are, and I walked in on a Saturday and there he was drinking coffee and making a contribution to my campaign. So I am grateful for knowing you. I am grateful for everything you've done for me. To AFSCME, you guys are brave for endorsing me. I sure hope the county executive respects you going forward and all the work that you've done in the county and continue to do. And I'll close it out by just saying thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for being there with me, not just these last 9 months, but these last 10 years. Thank you.